Summon Sign is brought to you by you. If you want to learn how to support our show, go to patreon.com/laststandmedia. Hello everyone, welcome to episode 41 of Summon Sign, Last Stand Media's weekly in-depth game discussion podcast. I am your host, as always, Brad Ellison. Joining me this week, we have Lockmort. Lockmort,
Hello,
how are
sir.
you, buddy?
Hello. I'm great. I'm so excited for this one because this is Maddie and I's first together appearance on LSM.
I know.
Which somehow has never happened before, even though
It's
we've
so
been
weird.
working for like 4 years together now. But this is like
They've
the
kept us separate for some reason. I wonder.
yeah. We'll find out. We'll find out
This
today
team
why.
is too powerful.
Wait, really?
Gonna
They
lead
keep you guys
domestically.
separate? You guys haven't been on a lot of stuff together?
Yeah, no, I know.
Oh,
Yeah,
never.
we've recorded a ton of shit together, but never on Last Stand.
Yeah.
So,
Wow, that's so weird. Yeah, that's why I wanted you guys together. I was like, well, they work together all the time. They know each other well, so I want them
Yeah.
together.
fuck yeah.
But yeah, also joining us, of course, is Maddie. Maddie, how
Wow.
you doing, man?
I'm doing great, dude. Really well rested today. Really, just like yesterday, I had one of those like faded, tired days that you just need to reset the sleep schedule. I've been like a 4:30 a.m.er for like 2 weeks straight. I'm like, something's got to give. And yesterday, I'm just grinding Silent Hill 2. It's like 1 a.m. I'm like, I'm tired as fuck, and I'm going to bed now. So I read a little bit of my book, and I was out. My body is so wired though that like I woke up at like 6 a.m. I was like, no, we're going straight back to bed. And so I woke up at 9. I was like, no. And I woke up at 11. I was like, this is good. This works for me. I was like, I need that long sleep. And so got up, did a little exercise, feeling good today, man. So excited to be here, doing a little summoning sign with the crew. Let's do
Mhm.
this. And I have a smoothie.
Yeah.
Pumpkin smoothie.
Ooh, nice.
Wow.
Yeah, glad to have you both here. Maddie, with bed, if I'm not in bed by like midnight, I feel like absolute trash.
I'm getting to that point, I think. There's just a different feel today where you just, but it's a maturity thing, right? You're more mature
Yeah.
than me, Brad. Like, I know this about myself. Like, I'm going to feel worse tomorrow, but I'm like, I like staying up. There's a solitude. There's a peace. I get a ton of shit done at night. I have a laundry list of reasons I like to stay up late. I get to talk to Locke because it's morning time for him.
Well, yeah, or nighttime. But yeah, sure. Yeah. It's
Depending.
true.
Yeah, Lockmort, I don't know. That guy's sleep schedule, I don't even know what it is. It's just,
Sometimes
there's
I sleep,
nothing.
sometimes I don't. It depends on the
that's
day.
about it.
Yeah.
That is about it, yeah. All right, everybody, before we get in the show, please check us out on patreon.com/laststandmedia. If you'd like to support us, you can get early access to all of our shows, including Defining Duke, our Xbox podcast hosted by Maddie right here. If you
Hello.
want to get the lowdown on Xbox with him and Cog, head on over there.
And boy, do we have
So
an
next-
episode prepared with Halo.
I know. I was going to say, yeah. Wow. A lot of stuff going on this week already.
Yeah.
On a Sunday night, we got some news, which is very
Yeah, what the hell's
surprising.
going on? Yeah.
Halo 343 rebranding, really strange, but
Mm-hmm.
just quick, Matt, how do you feel about it? Just quick thoughts on it.
I gotta find my catchphrase for this one. I'm still searching for it, but right now it's just one of those things where, like, this time for sure. Like, that's what I think of with SpongeBob. Like, this time, because they said the whole "we're going back to the roots" thing with Infinite. I'm like,
Yeah.
I was in on that, and you just said it again. Now I'm like, okay, I see what's different this time. I'm staying open minded, but I'm not. I'm surprised to see people are excited. I'll just say that. Like, I'm very surprised to see people are like, yeah, like, let's go Kings and Queens. I'm like, this is still the same team. But a lot of the bad actors that people would say are responsible for ruining Halo over the last 3 games are gone now. So, that's why I'm keeping an open mind. I think Pierre Hintz is a good studio head. He did save the Master Chief Collection with his team. So, maybe something develops there. They are apparently remastering or remaking Halo Combat Evolved. So that's my favorite game in the series. So we'll see what happens there. But I'm keeping an open mind. But right now, early thoughts are not like you're going all in on this team after all the feedback you got. That's pretty bold. So you guys better hit it out of the park next time. Like, it has to be stellar. So the pressure's on more than it's ever been.
Yeah, you're right. I think if there's one more blunder, it's like actually over. I feel like no redemption.
It's got to be. It's amazing how far they have come. All things considered, it's amazing how far they have come. That after everything that happened, they basically get rewarded. It's amazing. It's like, how the hell did this happen? Like, you're not 3 for 3. You're the Halo studio now. It's like, okay, all right.
Yeah, I don't know. It's very strange. Reminds me of Firewalk or whatever. It's like, how are you guys not closed yet?
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I guess the industry is more forgiving than we give it credit for. And to that, I love it. That's great.
Yeah. Second chances, third chances, fourth chances, I guess.
Infinite chances.
All right, boys. Yeah. It's now October, which means spooky time, Halloween time, big holiday here in the West or in the United States. Locke, is Halloween big there where you're at?
No, not at all. They each year they try to push it more and more onto us, but it doesn't really exist here. Like every once in a while, there's like one kid at the door who wants candy, but nobody has candy, and everyone is like, "What are you doing here? Go away." So it doesn't really work here. Stores do it, but no, it's not really a thing, sadly, because I think it's pretty cool, but we don't really celebrate it here. Yeah.
Yeah. But we love it here. The costumes, the candy, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So with Halloween season now, I was thinking, what are some good Halloween games? What do we want to play around Halloween time? I thought I'd ask you guys, well, what is a Halloween game to you? Could be multiple games. What do you feel like playing? Could be a spooky game. Could be a terrible, scary game. Or just a really cozy fall kind of game. I don't know. But Locke, let's start with you.
Sure. Well, I'm not really a scary game type of guy. I don't like jump scares. I don't like being scared at all in general. So I don't really look to be scared. But having said that, I do enjoy like Resident Evil games. I love those, of course. I love Left 4 Dead. I don't think they're considered scary games, though. Those games, right? Like they're considered
some Resident Evil games. People would, yeah.
Okay. Well, I like Resident Evil, but I also loved back in the day Silent Hill 1 and 2. So when I saw that Silent Hill was on sale, this month is extremely busy for me. There's a lot of games I want to play and like some stuff I want to do. So I didn't have time for Silent Hill 2, but I saw that it was on sale on Green Man Gaming. It was like 50% off or 40% off. So I told you this beforehand, Brad. I wasn't going to buy Silent Hill 2 because I don't have time to play it. So I was going to be a good boy. And I told you on Saturday, I think, and I told you this too, Matty, like I'm not going to buy it. I'm going to be good. I'm going to save my money. I'm not going to buy Silent Hill 2. And then the typical me thing happened, and I woke up on Sunday morning, and it was the literal Lord of the Rings meme where I woke up, I looked at Silent Hill 2 in the store, and I was like, why shouldn't I? Why shouldn't I buy Silent Hill 2 right now? So I did. I bought Silent Hill 2, literally played it for 10 minutes, put all my settings right. Thought it looked amazing, by the way, on PC. I don't know where you guys are playing it on, but I played it for like 20 minutes on PC. Looked great, and then I told myself, okay, you can't play it right now, but in 2 or 3 weeks, this is going to be your game. This is going to be great. So I can't wait to play it. I'm not going to time it out that I played on Halloween, but I think timing will work out that will be the game I'm playing around that awesome. Time.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, Matty.
All right, so this week I'm going to do the stupidest thing ever. So I'm playing, or hoping to be playing soon, Metaphor, Dragon Ball, East 10, what's the other game? Silent Hill 2. But certain sequel got announced this week, and I want to check out the original now. So Alien Isolation was always on, as Locke, you and I talked about. We were debating when we want to do a retro rebound video. Now's the time, man. It's time to check out Alien Isolation. It's October. Alien Romulus was phenomenal. I love the original Alien, which Locke and I talked about on Retro Rewind. It's just, one of my favorites. So I'm keen to finally check out a game that apparently very much honors that part of the Alien franchise and not like the action roots of it. And so I'm very, very excited because now there's a sequel, and that's all I know. I just know the sequel got announced. I don't know who's making it as of this time, but just pumped to know it exists, and it kind of gives me a little extra juice. So that's going to be my Halloween game. That and obviously Silent Hill 2, which we'll talk about later.
Yes, excellent. Yeah, I also haven't played the first one, but I've been meaning to for a long time. So, yeah, hopefully I'll get to it soon. I don't know, when there's a cataclysmic wave of content like what we're dealing with right now. You do what you can, but hopefully, hopefully
I don't know how I'm going to do it. I'm not. That's what's going to happen. Something really breaks somewhere. I'm already dropping all my MOBAs for the time being, which is my biggest time sink. So I'll only be single player gaming for a while. But man, you see those Metaphor reviews, like holy
oh man, love to see it.
I do too. Yeah.
For Halloween, for me, I usually just fall back on the Resident Evil 1 remake. That's my favorite Resident Evil game. I don't know if it's like the best one. It's one of the best in my opinion. And I know it's kind of archaic in a lot of ways, like the door animations and a lot of stuff people don't like Dustin, I remember, complained about that kind of stuff, which is totally fair. But I just really love that game. I like a scarier game like that. And I also like kind of a more spooky game, like a little more playful vibes, I guess. Not necessarily like a horror game. I do kind of want to revisit, just for the hell of it, the Medieval remake. I played it when it came out, and it was all right. I had a good time with it, but
I hated it.
I would like to revisit it. Yeah,
that game pissed
it's
me off
very,
so much.
very PS1 still, very much so. And that comes with the good and the bad. But I would like to do it because I just like the vibe of it. But yeah. You know, Maddie, I always think of this. You might appreciate this. I always think of Sonic Adventure 2 because of Pumpkin Hill with Knuckles.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, oh, yeah, if I could just play that part, maybe. But then I was like, I don't know if I want to go through
float around
Sonic
his Knuckles and find like 3 randomly placed objects. It was like the worst change they made. Like they got it so right in Sonic Adventure 1, and then 2, they just flipped the switch. Sorry, I'm doing that
Weird ass
Sonic
game
thing again. Apologies.
Weird ass game, man. Yeah, Sonic's just weird, but it's okay. We love him. I love to make fun of him.
Are you guys playing Generations later this month? I know.
I don't know. I played it when it came out, the original one. And it was cool, but I think Maddie, there's just too much right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
I think if maybe there wasn't so much, I'd check it out. Because like I always want to love Sonic, but I never like love Sonic.
Yeah,
but so I always root for that little blue blur, but not
you
enough to where I'm like,
for the 7 out of 10. If you have love for the 7 out of 10, then you'll love Sonic.
I do have some love for 7 out of 10. I think, dude, Sonic and his friends just kind of piss me off. Like all of his dumb friends. Like I already know who they all are now. There's too many of them. I'm just like,
I get it. Like a lot of people love the sidecast. I just love Sonic and Shadow. Like they're both great. But
sure,
like, Tails and Amy, Knuckles was cool. They've kind of like neutered Knuckles in my opinion, but he was really cool. So yeah, I hear you. And there's so many in like the spin-off games and stuff. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I kind of just like
looks like the shit. Like it looks really fucking good. So.
Oh yeah, I mean, when I played originally, it was fun. Have you ever played it, the first one?
Oh yeah. I've played that game so many times. Generations is like when I hated Sonic. Generations is the one game I accepted and was like, you're really good. So yeah, that game holds a special place. I actually played that after I got my appendix taken out, so I remember it very well for that as well. Imagine that. Just maybe that's what I needed. Locke. I needed to be drugged up to enjoy Sonic.
Yeah. Well, my only touch point with Sonic is editing your videos. So
yeah,
that's all I know about Sonic. The last one I edited for you, I think, was the one on the train, which wasn't even a Sonic game. Like
the murder
mystery.
The Hedgehog. That was a great game. That was really for a free 3-hour game. That was awesome. I really hope they make like a full thing of that. It kind of gave me Astrobot vibes, where it was like, we have an idea here. We could do something bigger with this. And I'm like, you should totally do it. Especially because like they had that scene of him like dead on the ground. There was like a ketchup packet.
Yeah,
it was great.
They need to like kill a side character though, like actually kill someone. It could just be a new character.
They could have totally got darker with it.
Someone's got to die. Maybe Eggman. All right, we got a quick question from Cammy Black here. Hello, gentle fellows. Just an ease it in starter question for y'all. Let me paint the scene. You find yourself in a small passenger aircraft with 4 passengers, including yourself, but only 3 parachutes. Someone has to die. Choose who doesn't get a parachute and why. Number 1, Nick Valentine. Number 2, Phil Spencer. Number 3, Master Splinter. Thank you. This seems like a question directed directly at you, Maddie.
Yeah, I guess so. What the fuck? From 3 of my favorite things: Xbox, Fallout 4, TMNT. All right, Phil's getting the parachute for sure. Phil's a human being.
Yes.
He gets the parachute. He's got to live. He does a lot of good work, even if people hate him. I think I'm not giving the parachute to Master Splinter. You know, he's old.
Oh.
He's lived a full life. It's time for the young guns to take over. And so let the turtles grow on their own. So that's why Master Splinter doesn't get the parachute. Everyone else gets to float out safely, though.
Damn. All right.
Nick Valentine's too cool to not. I can't kill Nick.
Well, I completely agree, but because Splinter is a rat, like the other one, well, I guess Nick Valentine isn't a human either, but
Or
maybe
is he?
Splinter.
We can get into that whole conversation.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. But Splinter might survive the plane crash. I don't know. I don't really. He's a rat. Who cares? Well,
he has a family.
That's true. Does he have a? I didn't know he
The
had
turtles,
a
Yeah,
family.
dude.
the turtles.
Oh, the turtles.
April,
Well, that's not
Casey. They're all one big crazy family.
Okay. Well, then I would stay in the plane. I would sacrifice myself and save the big rat man.
All right,
I would Homelander it. And I would fly outside the plane and take it down and kill all three of them.
That's awesome. I would say Phil Spencer because he is a human being. I'm gonna kill Nick Valentine.
Oh
Damn.
man,
because he's a filthy synth.
Oh no,
He's a filthy
our AI
synth.
overlords take over. You'll be the first.
Yes,
to go
Master Splinter is at least he's cool as fuck, dude. Do you know what I mean?
now. Mhm.
Master Splinter's awesome, at least. Nick Valentine is cool, but I feel like he would be totally okay with it. He'd be like, well, that's the hand I was dealt, or something like that. He'd say something really cool and just go down
That's
with the
true.
ship. But yeah, Nick Valentine was awesome. That's who I used when I played Fallout 4, like
So
the
good.
whole time. He was by far
best
the
one.
best.
Fallout 4 has
Yeah.
underrated companions. Like Kate is another amazing one. I think she's so
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, I don't remember a lot about Fallout 4 now that I think about it. I just remember the base building. I did not like it. I'll remember that
Fair.
at the time. But I guess you don't have to do it, so that's cool. All right, boys. Silent Hill 2 Remake is finally out. And it's good, to my surprise. And I guess many other people's surprises, because Bloober Team and Konami, of course, hasn't had a great track record of new releases, I would say. They've been doing great collections for a while, but new games, not so much, because we had Metal Gear Survive, and that was bad. We had the Contra game, which was also very bad. But we got a brand new remake of Silent Hill from Bloober Team, who also did The Medium, which I absolutely hated.
Yeah.
And Layers of Fear is okay, I guess, but I haven't played a lot of their other games after that. But I was skeptical. Many people were skeptical. Maddie, were you a believer?
No. For the exact reasons you laid out. You had a publisher that's not really all in on the gaming space, half-heartedly joining in, doing some remasters and stuff. This was their, quote, big budget project where I was like, I don't know how much they're going to spend on this. Do they think it's going to do really well? And then you give it to I thought, worst imaginable developer, like the team that wants to be Silent Hill 2 developer so badly, but has never made anything of that quality. For some people, like they like Layers of Fear or The Observer, like they've made okay games at best. But everything I played from them, I don't like at all. And so when I saw them get handed this, which I played Silent Hill 2, the original, a couple of years ago, and absolutely loved it. So I can only imagine the pain and the fear of the lifelong fans. I was feeling it after 2 years. I was like, oh my God, they gave it to them. But yeah, man, they pulled it off. It's not just good in my opinion. I was like, I think this is fantastic so far. I got through the apartments. I played like 5 hours straight into it last night. I was like, this is ridiculously good. I have lots of thoughts, but yeah, I did not believe it. I'm very surprised that I was expecting to be kind of janky. I was like, no, this is actually like really well made. The way they've expanded it, like just fuck, dude. I'm really happy with it. Really happy with it.
It's really surprising. Took us most of us by surprise. So I am happy to be proven wrong. It feels really good because we don't get that very often.
Yeah.
Most of the time we're hyped for something and it just turns out bad. That's more the case than something looking bad and turning out good. But Lockmort, so I know you've played probably the least of the remake so far. You just played a little bit of it, correct?
Yeah, I literally played 20 minutes. And then I watched your stream yesterday for like an hour, I think. That's all. It reminded me a lot of Resident Evil 2, the remake, what I saw from your stream at least. But I think a couple of years ago, Maddie, we did last year maybe, we did Resident Evil 2 on Retro Rebound.
We never did Resident Evil 2. We've done 4, 5, and 6.
No,
Silent Hill 2,
Silent Hill 2. Yeah. We did the original, right? And that's when I replayed it too. Because I played it way back in the day. And so I'm really looking forward to this remake because I love the original too. It's just a bad time for me now to jump in right now. But I can't wait to do it in a couple of weeks because it looked amazing. And like you guys said, so unexpected too. I remember you had Gene on last week who was also not very hopeful. And a lot of people weren't. So it's such a huge surprise to see how they turned it around and made it so successful. So I'm really interested. So I'm excited to hear you guys talk about it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, Maddie, let's start with you. So you've played the most of the game.
Mhm.
Tell me about it.
I'm just okay. So first off, I was curious how explorable Silent Hill as a town would be, and it's a lot more explorable. Like you can go into buildings, you can break glass, crawl in. There's a lot of resource management. It's much more of a survival horror game than it was before. For those who never played the original Silent Hill 2, I would define it as a psychological horror game where you don't. This series is not littered with cheap jump scares or anything like that. It just really preys on your stamina for horror games. Like the longer you go, the more this game whittles you away. Like I went from being totally fine to just like jumping at shit just by the tension the game builds. But it's also a game that I define as like pure art. Like everything is done with meaning, from enemy design to the town, its street names, the locations you go in, the things you see. Everything is extremely deliberate. Nothing just exists for the sake of being there. And Silent Hill 2 especially. So that's basically the need to know is there. The question was, how would the gameplay translate? Because they seemed pretty confident in that they're not going to change the story. And so what do they do with the gameplay? Because James, like part of the allure of Silent Hill is you play as like normal people who are going through tough times, facing their trauma. And so James playing like Leon Kennedy, he can only be so effective in combat. And I think they did a really good job walking that line, but I'll get into that a little bit. To me, the first thing I was really looking at is how much can I explore? It's not like totally open world, but this game is much more dense than the original. I can go in buildings, get resources, find notes, find little secrets tucked away. If you will, I call them dungeons in Silent Hill, like the I think Brookview Apartments is what they're called. I'll just call them
Yeah.
the apartment complex, but that is a dungeon to me, and it's like that has been greatly expanded in that there's more rooms for you to access. The puzzles have been streamlined a little bit, where there's still, you have to think, like you still have the coin puzzle, you still have to think, but there's some new layers to it where it's a lot more, I would say, accessible. The original Silent Hill 2, I want to say it was all of them, but 2 I know the puzzle solutions would sometimes be randomized or different. So let's say you got stuck and you want to look up a walkthrough, you would just know the steps on how to solve it, but not really what the solution was. And they would have some real brain busters. And so Silent Hill 2 Remake has also kind of streamlined that a little bit, where you still have getting these items to access these areas, very Resident Evil coded, but also very much you're solving a puzzle to get to the next area. But I think those puzzles have been more engaging than the original to me, because they feel more thematically driven. Like they've rethought the right parts of the game. I thought the puzzles were, I said in our recent episode of Retro Rebound, I was like, if they're going to rethink anything with this game beyond the obvious parts of the combat, you rethink the puzzles. And I'm very happy with what they did there, because I think it does not create an obtuse experience where you're just there purely for story cutscenes, because the gameplay is great, the story is magnificent, and then now you have the puzzles that do not disrupt you as often as they did. So it really coalesces into something. I think it's brilliant, because like the Silent Hill 2 has fixed camera angles, so like right away this is a very difficult game to remake, because now you have the camera over his shoulder, so you have to change how everything is handled, because part of Silent Hill 2 is like tool set, if you will, to create tension is to set the camera in specific areas, so you're kind of walking against something you can't see. Now you can see ahead of you, so how do you create that tension? And like modern lighting does a lot. When you're in that second floor of the apartments and you see Pyramid Head for the first time, it's fucking terrifying, dude. You just see this red light at the end of the hallway, you're like, what is that? And as you get closer, you're like, holy shit, that's a thing. It's really great in that regard. So they've done an excellent job from top to bottom to me. And again, as their biggest doubter, this game has given me goosebumps so many times. Like the cutscene where you see Angela laying down with the knife over her head, like just the performance is so good. It's still got that jank that the original did, and it's like they're very human. Like it's human in that they don't know each other and they're kind of awkward, and that's deliberate. And as someone who is a big defender of Silent Hill's control scheme, like it's not great, it's tanky, and it has you working against, like you'll be holding right but running left because of just how your body's oriented. I've always argued that it's part of the experience, because Silent Hill is like you're experiencing the confusion and the chaos and the trauma alongside the character. And so with Silent Hill 2, fixing that control scheme, I'm like, how do you manage that chaos still? It's like the enemies they throw at you, the sound is so fucking good. You do an Isaac level stomp in this game, and like James's VA is so right now like on his fucking shit. It's amazing. So I could rant and rave, but yeah, 5 hours in, I'm blown away. Like, this is game of the year contender for me right now, just because I know remakes are for some people cheap, right? Like, there's a big debate on like, oh, can you really like a remake this much? It's not like Dead Space, where I love Dead Space. That's my favorite survival horror game, but you really didn't have to change shit. That's why I was so against that remake. I was like, you don't have to change anything, but they did enough in just the right areas where I was like, okay, I love the vision here. Silent Hill 2 is such a challenging remake, right? In the ways it could so obviously be greatly expanded, but also bringing this story to modern audiences, and also the gameplay changes and the camera changes. It's such a task on also a technical level with the consistent fog and everything, and they've done it. They've done it. So I'm blown away. It should be considered, just by what I've played so far, a top of the line remake, just by how it has rethought such a impactful game and done it so elegantly. So yeah, I adore Silent Hill 2, and I'm excited to play more as time goes on. And I could already see the multiple playthroughs setting in. Like, this is going to be one for the ages for me. Like, I can just feel it. Like, it is just, I already know the story is amazing. They haven't touched anything I've seen thus far. So I know I'm going to get that same just like heart-throbbing story with better gameplay and puzzles and exploration. That's all I ever wanted, and I'm thrilled by it. Really thrilled by it.
Yeah. For me, so I played Silent Hill 2 when it came out back in the day on PS2, and I thought it was great at the time. I've always been in the Resident Evil camp more than Silent Hill, though, but I did like Silent Hill 2 a lot. I replayed Silent Hill 2 this year, and I like it still, but I don't like it nearly as much as most people, I think. You know, people praise it as one of the best survival horror games of all time, kind of stuff like that. I don't think so, but I think it's really good. And I think the story is obviously the strong point of these games and the atmosphere.
100%. Yeah.
But I feel like the gameplay in 2, when I played it again, I was like, man, this is really rough in a lot of ways. Not just the fact that, you know, it's James is just a normal guy. It's just like, it just feels rough, and some of the layout is very confusing. And like, I remember the apartments, I'm like, well, everything looks the same for like 4 floors, so this is annoying. There's a million locked doors. I'm getting very frustrated. I'm just like, God. Yeah. But it is still a very special game and magical game, and I obviously recommend checking out if you like survival horror games. But I have been very pleased so far with this remake, because I think it's been smart, because they've made some great changes, like you're saying, Maddie, particularly like puzzles, just making them a little feel like they make more sense, a little less obtuse, where you don't feel like you stumbled upon the answer nearly as much. But right away, I liked the beginning of the game, because they give you more time in the town, actually, and exploring the town. Like, you're doing this whole puzzle, like putting this record back together. Yeah. And I was like, I don't remember this from the original one. And I asked my chat, and they're like, no, this isn't in the original one. I was like, oh, well, this is really great, because like, you get to the apartments pretty early on in the original game, but here there's a little more lead up to it, and I really like that. And they made some changes, like where you get, you know, the plank, your first weapon, is in a completely different spot, but they have nods to the original. Like, when you get up to a certain thing from the original game, it like makes this weird little chime sound. And it has like the angle changes a little.
Interesting. Yeah.
And it's like they're a little like wink and nod, I guess, to it, which is cool. I like that. You know, you should reward the fans of the original, but they've done such a great job of just adapting the combat. Of course, you look at this game, and if you've played Resident Evil 2 Remake, it's like, well, of course they took huge inspiration from that game. Why would you not? Yeah, because they did such a great job with that. And combat is so much more satisfying this time around. I like that James has the dodge. It's not like crazy dodge. You know, you're not knife parrying guys. You're not Leon S. Kennedy, and you shouldn't be. You know, you shouldn't be chopping legs off the parries and all that stuff. It doesn't make sense for James. But he does kind of have a little dodge, which helps. And some of I think the melee combat is much better than I thought it was going to be. What do you think about that, Maddie? Like, I remember seeing the trailer, and I was like, ooh, that looks pretty rough. Yeah. And it's not like incredible or anything like that, but I think it's just enough to make it so you're just like, okay, I can feel the blows here.
I think it's a testament to what good sound can do, because at times the animation is a little weak, but the sound is so, like, the sound when you hit them and James is like grunting, and like again, the performance is so good. Like, if you stomp an enemy enough times, his voice cracks because he's just so panicked. Yeah. And that's my buy-in. The camera works really good. So when you swing, like, it really comes in close and you feel the impact. So I think the animation work isn't phenomenal. It does enough, but like it's really what surrounds it. And so yeah, like when I remember when the game, and I don't know if it's just like hazy memory, but when this thing was first shown off, it wasn't even like what Bluebird team thing. Like the first trailer and gameplay broke for it. I was like, that doesn't look very good at all. So kudos to them for cleaning it up a lot heading into the launch. They really responded to that because it didn't look good at first. But yeah, I think it gets the job done. And I don't know if you got the gun yet, Brad, but like even the shooting, that's very Resident Evil. And it feels really good. Like when you aim in, your reticle starts out really wide and it gradually narrows as you hold the aim up. And I forgot what game did that. But I was like, that's a great touch too. So there's a lot there that makes the gameplay better, in my opinion.
I think it's like Resident Evil games do that with the crosshair getting.
I thought it was that, but I wasn't sure.
Yeah, I think it's that.
Are you both playing it on console, or is one of you playing?
I'm playing on console.
I am as well. Yeah.
Okay. But what about the graphics? Because on PC, I saw that it looked amazing, but on console, I think last night when I looked at your stream, Brad, it looks great, but there's still like a pretty big difference, I think. Or
maybe I was playing on performance mode, and I don't know. I haven't played on like my OLED TV yet, so I'm not exactly sure. I've been playing on a 1440p monitor with no HDR and everything like that, so I'll have to see it when I'm on my TV.
Sure.
But it's been pretty solid most of the time, Lock. There was one part you go like outside of the apartment complex, and there's like you have to get a coin in the pool or whatever. And it like the frame rate took a big dive there because there was like 4 guys out there, I would say. And I noticed that, but otherwise, then it's been pretty good, Lock.
Okay, cool. Because it'll get like pro enhanced, I think, too, right?
Yes, it will. Okay. So I'll definitely check that out.
I had it on performance mode myself, and I know I was talking about one of my editors, Josh, and he was like, yeah, it like hitches sometimes. I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna keep my expectations there. And I've been very surprised how smooth it's been for me. I've been playing it on my 4K gaming projector because I was like, I need the cinema fucking experience for this one, bro. I need everything with this thing. And so I've been playing it on that, and I was surprised at how well it was running. And also I was expecting with my performance mode for this to be like 7 Rebirth style performance mode in a pre PS5 Pro world where it's like blurry and stuff. But I feel like it looks pretty good. Maybe ignorance is bliss. I have not switched over to quality mode to see the difference. And I think that's what really gives you the context of like how low you are. But right now for me, the worst I saw was I looked at a note for like one of the puzzles and it was blurry at first and the texture loaded in a little bit later. And that was like the only kind of technical hitch. But right now I feel like from my experience, the game's pretty tight. But I imagine that others are having different experiences, but it was one of those games where I kind of thought maybe I would rather have played on PC. So Locke, your experience will intrigue me greatly if it looks and runs as good as you're saying it did initially.
Yeah, the only thing I saw someone from Digital Foundry said stuttering all over the place. Really? So I was like, is this an Unreal game?
It is.
Yeah, Unreal Engine does not seem to run very great on PC when it releases, especially with stutter. That's been my experience with it. Like, what was it? Jedi Survivor was Unreal.
Yeah, Dead Space too, right?
Maybe, yeah.
What wasn't it?
Final Fantasy 7 Remake on PC was.
Oh yeah, but Dead Space
Unreal
had that too. Yeah,
and it was not a great port right away. So I was like, I'll try it on console because I am getting a Pro. So I was like, I'll just see how that is too. So it's fine.
Sure. Yeah,
but I'm sure PC's fine. You probably have a great time with it, and I'm sure it looks very nice still.
Well, it's mostly the RTX on PC, if I'm not mistaken, because I turned mine off and I turned mine on. That's the only test I did in the 20 minutes that I spent in the game, just to check outside with the puddles, and the difference was like night and day, I think. So
yeah, of course. Right. I don't know how the performance goes as you go throughout the game, because some areas might perform better than others. I have no idea. But on console, it seems good enough right now. You know, it's not like, I mean, it looks nice, but it's not like first party game or anything like that, but it still looks very nice, especially because the art direction is so strong in the locations, which is phenomenal. So
nice.
Yeah, Silent Hill 2, I guess, has just been a great surprise. I've been having a really good time with it. Like Matty said, a lot of great smart choices they made to just streamline some things in a better way. Just everything's a little more smooth. The combat encounters feel way more intense now. Part of it is the sound, like Matty was also saying. It's been a great remake so far, and I can't wait to see more and like what other things they change. I don't know if there's new endings or whatever they're going to do like that. I'm very curious about all that kind of stuff. The unlocks. think in the original you got a chainsaw for an unlock, so I'm curious what they have.
That's what I'm excited about is I was really thinking about that kind of stuff. Is like when I beat this, like what kind of modes does this offer? Because this is the type of game I would do that for. Because a lot of people will like go and get all the endings for Silent Hill 2. I love that game a lot, but I'm with you, Brad. Like it's tough to play. It's it's a 1-time, maybe 2-time thing. It's very tough to play though, even when you get used to those controls. But now that this is really fun to play, I'm like, okay, what modes can you throw my way? And I hope they have like a classic mode that has like at one point like fixed camera angles. I think that would be so cool for them to do. I would love to see them try that, but I'm curious about what modes they do for sure.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's a weird time to feel happy with Silent Hill and like confident about it right now, I guess, because Silent Hill's been in the dumps for so long, and just things like Ascension just being horrible and Konami mismanaging that IP.
Was the Lost Message? What did they do recently?
Yeah, Lost Message. Yeah. There's that other game coming out, F or Silent Hill F or something like that. I forgot what the actual title is. So that I'm like more curious about that now. It's not Bloober Team, it's someone else. But with this, I'm like, well, if Bloober Team wants to do it and Konami wants to, they should remake 1 and 3 also.
You read my mind. I was like, man, has the script flipped for them? I was just like, well, this is really good. And Silent Hill 3, the thing that's tricky with Silent Hill 3, I'm a believer that Silent Hill 3 can stand on its own. I have not finished 1, but I know it a lot about 1 because I watched a buddy play it. I played a little bit of it. I didn't finish it, but I played and finished 3. I think 3 stands on its own enough, but like having the context of 1 is really important to kind of get the overall story. The thing is that I think like 3 is widely more celebrated than 1. So it's kind of like that hump in the road where it's like to get to 3, you probably want to do 1 unless you're going to completely rethink the story of 3, which I wouldn't recommend doing either. But I'm with you. I'm just like, all right, Bloober, what's next? Like this is kind of your dream project with Silent Hill 2 Remake. So what else can you do for this franchise? Can you bring it to new heights? Should they do a new mainline Silent Hill game? That's the other question. That would be interesting to see as well.
Yeah, man. I mean, right now it feels like, you can do whatever you want with Silent Hill. That's what it feels like right now. I mean, having a blueprint to kind of work off and then making your own blueprint are completely different things, I guess. So I don't know if they would do it as good, but I don't know. I feel more confident now. And it just feels good. It's just like a feel-good win for gamers. I feel like right now, I'm just like, everybody wins right now. It's great.
Yeah, I'm definitely in keeping them in the remake camp just because I'm with you. I don't know if you were implying this, but I don't trust their talent fully yet to be like, you're off the leash.
That's what I was saying, yeah.
I think them having something to kind of look at and go, how do we improve this versus, okay, we're starting from we see what happens for like 10 years, what happens when they go, all right, from the ground up. We know what happens there. There's no coincidence that all of a sudden they figured it out here. So
right.
I agree that maybe keeping them in the remake camp is a good idea for this franchise because they have a lot of work ahead of them. You have 4 games, so they can do that.
I think the smart idea would to do 1 or probably 1 and 3 next. Then you can go from there, I guess, if you want to do your own game. But
or maybe 4. I haven't played 4.
I've never finished 4.
4 is apparently more of a continuation of 2, and then 3 is a continuation of 1. So I don't know. Maybe that's the play. But 2, they might just stick with 2 just because 2 is the best entry point, and 2 is also like, you know, like it's just beginner friendly in every sense. You know, you don't need any like prior knowledge or anything like that.
Right. Yeah, that leads to this question. Nat Patterson wrote in, hey, Summon Ussies, is Silent Hill 2 Remake an appropriate game to jump in with zero knowledge of the franchise outside of memes with it's foggy outside? Oh, look, it's Silent Hill. That was them, not me. I've been interested since I was a kid, but my parents never bought it for me. And by the time I had my own income, I had moved on and let the series pass me by. Should I jump in? Yes, Nat. You can totally hop into this game without any prior experience. In fact, a lot of people did that with the original, so you'll be completely fine. Maybe you'll get like a little more context, perhaps, but nothing that I can recall that's like important for the game. So yeah, you should just hop into this game and play it while it's hot right now. Get in on that zeitgeist. Have a good time with everybody else.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, yeah, Silent Hill 2, good stuff, man. All right. I mean, I'll be talking about that more over the weeks as I play more, but so far, so good.
How long is it? Do you guys know if they said it's like 18 hours, I think? Or
yeah, that's what I've heard. Probably first playthroughs around 18.
Yeah, I remember.
Which is very meaty.
I remember, yeah, for sure. Because I remember with Silent Hill 2, I'm just going purely off of memory. I feel like I was in and out of the apartments like through that whole beginning of the game in like 3 hours tops. Because like Silent Hill 2 is like an 8 to 9 hour game in total. So the fact that I put like 5 in and just got out of the apartments is like, yeah, it's a much bigger game, much more dense game. There's also that degree of like newcomer, like figuring out this new layout, that sort of thing. Oh, also, I just want to throw out there on the quality of life enhancements for those of you who played the original. I mean, I imagine if you played the original, you're probably going to pick this up, but like the ability to just not go into the menu 24/7, just pressing up on the D-pad, here's your map, and that's it. Like just your sense of spatial awareness is so much better in this game. It's like the biggest victory this game has is just that you can navigate the world so much easier without pausing the game or heal yourself without pausing the game. Like those little quality life enhancements, they're so obvious, but they're so needed and just dramatically improve the experience. Like, oh, I'm hurt. Triangle, not pause game, inventory, medkit, use item. Like it's just so much quicker, so much better. So just want to throw those out there as well for those on the
that's a great thing to throw out there. I think that's really important, and it does go a long way in just streamlining everything. Also, just quick shout out to the soundtrack. Really great so far. Of course, Akira Yamaoka is like legendary, and Silent Hill has very famous music. So far it's been great. I've been really enjoying it, and I always look forward to hearing tracks in the game. So shout out, dude. So good.
God, dude. Don't get me started.
All right. Move on. Lockmort, Diablo 4.
Yes, sir.
Vessel of Hatred is coming up soon, isn't it?
It's coming out tomorrow, I think. Right?
Okay.
The 8th. Yeah, tomorrow.
Yeah, that's tomorrow.
The reviews are already out, I think. Or the reviews were already out last week.
Oh, okay.
And they're mostly stellar, I think. I think it gets like great reviews, like 8s and 9s and 10s everywhere.
Okay.
Which is pretty cool. Did you guys play, Maddie? I know you played Diablo 4, but did you play Diablo 4?
I played a lot of it. I didn't finish the campaign, but I did play it, and it was good. I just didn't finish it.
Yeah. Well, I was working. I've been working on a Mafia video for a very long time, but it's done. My Mafia video is done, and I was supposed to put it up last week. But then a genius friend of mine called Mr. Matty told me, wait, because I was also working on a Diablo 4 video, and he told me, next week is Vessel of Hatred time, so that's when you should put up your Diablo video. I was like, yes, Maddie, thank you. This is why I love you.
See, everyone, I'm not just clickbait.
No. Exactly. So I started working, or I started finishing my Diablo 4 video. But to do that, I needed to delve deep into it again. So I finished the entire campaign again for the second time. The first time that I played it, I didn't finish the campaign. I was like you, Brad. And the first time I didn't finish it because I was playing it in co-op. You can play the entire game in co-op, but when I'm playing co-op, as you know, Brad, because we've played WoW in co-op, I'm not the best co-op player because I get completely distracted by everything and everyone. So as soon as someone talks about something else, I'm gone and the game doesn't exist anymore for me. So whenever we play WoW, I lose you 9 out of 10 times, and I have to ask you where you are. The same thing happened here in Diablo. Either I concentrate on the game and I play the game, or I'm talking with my friends, but I can't do both for some reason. So the first time, I think I played it with Ben and a couple of other people, and I just got lost into the lore, and I got too far into the story to remember what was going on, so I put it down. But this time, I went back to it and started it from the beginning. Now, I love Diablo. I have like a huge connection to the franchise, because when 2 came out, I think in 2001 or 2002, I was in high school. I didn't get a lot of games. But in that year, I remember I got Baldur's Gate 2 and I got Diablo 2 in the same year. And that was RPG heaven, of course. I love Diablo 2. Such a great game. But the reason I love Diablo is not because of the gameplay, which the gameplay is awesome. But the gameplay is also pretty simplistic, I think, maybe. But the reason I love Diablo so much is because of the lore and because of the story behind it. It's such an original world. So I love Diablo 2, where the story was still pretty small scale. Diablo 1 is, of course, only one location, and then you go down into the cellar, you kill Diablo. That's basically the entire game. 2 made the story a little bit bigger. You got 4 acts, 4 biomes too, which is really cool. So it's not just a cellar. You also have the desert and the jungle, which is cool. 3 opened it up even more. Multiple acts, more biomes. 3 did something that many people didn't like because they changed like the serious tone and like the grim dark tone
Right.
of 1 and 2 into a more cartoony style. So
Mhm.
people got pretty pissed at 3. I didn't, because again, I was in it for the lore and for the story. But a lot of people didn't like 3 or were pretty down on 3
I
because
thought
of
3
the
was pretty serious. I mean, I have limited Diablo experience, but
it
that's interesting to hear.
it was serious in tone, but not in art design.
Yeah, not in the
Remember,
visual aspect, I guess.
like
Got it.
people.
3 was very colorful. Remember, like they used like the
Yeah.
WoW. It didn't look like WoW really, but it kind of did look like WoW, even though they pretended
That's
it
fair.
didn't.
Yeah.
And 3 also at the auction house. I don't know if you guys remember this.
Oh, I do.
When 3 launched, it at the auction house. People were very upset, so they took it out. And then, like every Diablo game, a year or 2 years after launch, the game was ready and it was awesome. So I loved all Diablo games going into 4. I loved all the lore. I love all the stories in Diablo. I love the gameplay too, of course. So this time when I finally started Diablo 4 for real, the campaign, I was very into it. Because the story in Diablo 4 and the way it starts is very personal to your character. Normally in Diablo, you play like the barbarian or you play the necromancer, like an unnamed character that's just there to fuck shit up, and then you kill Diablo and you win. Yay, game over. But in this one, it's very personal. It's the story in Diablo 4. I'm not going to explain the entire lore, but there's basically a war going on in every Diablo game. There's a war going on between heaven and hell, and you're in the middle of it. You're in Sanctuary. The world was created by Lilith and Inarius, someone from the heavens, someone from the hells. They created Sanctuary as like an in-between, and that's where this story takes place. But the cool thing about Diablo 4 is that it basically takes place in Eastern Europe, which no other game has done yet. Like the accents are from Eastern Europe. It's snowy, it's all dark, it's grim, it's harkening back to Diablo 1 and 2, where it's way more serious in tone. There's not a lot of color, there's a lot of blood, there's a lot of gore, but there's also the typical Blizzard staple, which is the cutscenes. And the cutscenes in Diablo 4 are so special because it's not just cinematically beautiful, but your character is in them. And that's the first time that Diablo has done this. So your fully customizable character is in the in-game cutscenes, which is really cool and makes it more personal and gives your character more personal stakes to do the things that he's doing. So what amazed me the most about finally delving deep into the campaign here is how the story evolved and how your character was connected to it. They actually have characters now, apart from Deckard Cain, who was in the previous games. I'm not going to spoil it. Maybe he's in here, maybe he's not. But there's multiple characters here whose names I actually remember because of the great voice acting. Ralph Ineson, who was also in Final Fantasy 16. He played Sid, if I'm not mistaken there.
Yeah.
He plays Lorath in here, who's a great character. His voice is booming, so very recognizable voice actor. But his story in this game is amazing. There's another character called Donan in another act, another great personal story there. You basically follow these characters and help them overcome their problems. Lilith is trying to take over Sanctuary. You don't actually know why. You're trying to figure out the mystery as to why she's trying to take over. But these characters play like a major part in it. So for the first time in a Diablo game ever, really, there are personal stakes. There are stakes for the characters in this game. You're not just there to fuck shit up. You're there to actually help people. There are side quests this time. It takes place in an open world. So there are side quests you can undertake. And the side quests aren't just go here, kill 20 enemies. No, the side quests also have stories to them. So there was one, for example, in Act 1 where you have to find like an axe, a woodman's axe. But then the axe turns out to be cursed, and everyone who wields it turns into a demon. Or there's this woman you meet in the city, because there's multiple cities now too. There's a woman you meet in the city, and she asks you to follow her to a cellar because she thinks her husband is possessed. And then you get there, but it turns out she's the possessed one. And there's always these little twists and turns that are really cool, really fun to follow. It's of course not like The Witcher, where the stories have like multiple branches and they branch out into other stories. It's all very much contained, but it's really cool. It really makes the game feel more alive than any other Diablo title has done in the past, to me anyway. But of course, most people play Diablo for the gameplay. And the gameplay here is very interesting. What Diablo 2 did was Diablo 2 had you pick a class, of course, and just pick your skills, go have fun. And then Diablo 3 tried to restrict you more. They gave you the skills automatically. You didn't get to choose anymore. at least not in the beginning. So it basically gave you the skills. Here you go, have fun. Most people didn't. They got upset, but other people had fun. And in Diablo 4, you get a skill tree for the first time, like an actual skill tree with multiple skills where you can pick between. I picked a barbarian because I love the ooga booga, feeling the equipment that I actually use, feeling the hits on my armor. So I love the barbarian, so I picked the barbarian again. And the skills I picked for him were like whirlwind, leap, and ground stomp, which are like typical barbarian skills, I think, in any game. But the cool thing about the combat in Diablo is that you can actually feel it. Not just because you play with the controller, because you can play it with a controller on keyboard. You can also play it with a mouse and keyboard, of course. But if you play it with a controller, you can actually feel your barbarian jump into a heap of enemies. And that's where the beauty of Diablo comes from. There's mobs everywhere, constant mobs, and the mobs drop loot, and you get the loot, and you get better loot. And then in previous iterations, you can upgrade your loot. You can't hear, but I'll get back to that. So it's all about loot. It's about gaining levels. It's about leveling your skill tree, and it's about your character getting better, progressively better, like in any RPG, I would say. Now, the problem is with Diablo 4, or the problem I had with Diablo 4, is that I was doing everything. I was doing every side quest. I was loving my time with it. So in Act 1 is supposed to take you like, I think 5, 6, 7 hours. I was still there in like hour 12 because I was doing everything. I was exploring every nook and cranny. I was doing every side quest. And then I think in Act 1, I got to level 40. I was like, God, this is so cool. You know what? I want to check what the level cap is. So I went to Google and I typed in Diablo 4 level cap for the campaign, because I also started noticing that I wasn't dying, like, at all. I could pick between two world tiers, World Tier 1, which is the basic one, but I picked World Tier 2, where everything is like 50% extra. So monsters are 50% harder, but you also get 50% more XP, 50% more gold, right? So I was on World Tier 2, not World War 2, but I kept I wasn't dying. Like the game was getting progressively easier for me. So that's when I went to Google and I looked up the level cap, and that's when I saw something that disturbed me greatly. And that is that the level cap for the enemies during the campaign is level 50, which is such a huge mistake, I think, because that ruined the game for me. Because I was still in Act 1. I was playing Diablo. I was playing the game with all the side quests. But the game blatantly told me, you can't play it like this. You got to rush the main story, get it to a new world tier so that the enemies can get harder, and then do all the side quests, which is not how I play games, which is not how I enjoy playing games. So that made me realize that this game is awesome. This game is amazing, and it's not for me. Because it's fully geared towards endgame players and not towards lore players like myself. I play games for the gameplay, of course, but also for the story, for the progression, for the player agency, basically. And this game is mostly geared, or it is now, maybe it wasn't at launch, but it is now geared towards endgame players, which I get. It's seasonal content. That's where the money is, so that's where they need to focus. But for someone like me who plays it for the campaign, once you hit level 50, it's kind of done. There's not much there anymore because you can't level anymore. Oh, your gear is maxed out. You're pretty much done. I didn't die once, which is such a bummer. So tomorrow we're getting the expansion, and this is going to sound stupid. I'm definitely getting the expansion because I want to know where the story goes. I want to know where the story goes because I was really invested in the main story. But what I've learned now is that I have to rush through that story, not pay attention, maybe play it in co-op, and then do it again at a higher world tier and then pay attention, which is not the way I like playing my games. So I wonder, have you guys played Diablo 1, 2, 3?
I've played 2 Resurrected. I played Vanilla 3, the campaign, and I've played some of 4.
Because I remember with 3, the complaint mostly was that the campaign was so short. Everybody completed it within the first 24 hours, remember? Yeah. But of course, the cutscenes there were so cool, and the story was so. And you had like the classes there that you could pick between. But I think the problem here is that the campaign is longer, way longer, so you can't do that really. I think if the campaign was shorter here, it wouldn't be that much of a problem. But because it's an open world, it's a giant game. I was 40 hours in before I completed it, and that's with like the last 20. Yeah, I think the last 20 hours at top level where I just had to rush the main story. So it's a bit of a bummer to me because I really love Diablo 4. I think it's an amazing story. The writing is awesome. The characters are amazing. The combat is super cool. But they somehow cut me off at the knees, or players like me. So I wish they didn't do that.
Yeah. We have a question from Neo JD Lock. I'm curious about this. Lock,
Sure.
do you feel the upcoming Vessel of Hatred DLC is priced accordingly at $40?
Yeah.
For more than half of the base price, you're getting more story, but only one new character or class.
That is true. That's a valid point. Now, if I'm not mistaken, you're also getting companions, which were also in the.
I think that's true. Yeah.
In the previous games, but it's true that you only get one. You only get one more new player. I think we still need the Crusader. We still need the Witch Doctor. I think the Witch Doctor is coming right now, or something is coming right now.
Oh, the Witch Doctor? Oh no,
No,
I think it's a new class for the
Yeah,
expansion, right?
They're calling it differently, but I think if I'm not mistaken, it's somewhat like the Witch Doctor.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not entirely sure. I didn't really look into the expansion because I didn't want to get spoiled. But it's true that they only add one new class, which is annoying. But again, this is what people should do if you play this game like me. I think you should wait 2 years and then buy the Ultimate Edition for like half the price, and get the entire campaign. And maybe by then they will have fixed the world tier problem or the seasonal content problem, and you can play like a fantastic ARPG. Because right now I will buy the expansion because I don't want to get spoiled. I want to get through the story. I want to know what happens next. I'm so invested in it. But if you're not, and if you're like me and you play it for the story, maybe wait. But if you're in it for the gameplay, which most people are, I guess, of course, or if you're in it for the seasonal content or the end game, yeah, there's no question you're going to buy the expansion. Of course, there's more stuff. There's more Diablo. That's what people want. I think. And $40 is. I think $40 is very expensive, but the production value of this game is also so incredibly high that I kind of get why it needs to be priced that high. But it's a lot of money. If I wasn't as invested in the story, I wouldn't do it. Yeah. Oh, you're muted, I think.
Yeah, I was muted. I was looking at the new class. The new class is Spiritborn, by the way. That's what it's called.
Okay. Yeah.
$40 is pretty standard for Blizzard expansions. I mean, yeah, that is a lot of money. I don't know how much content's in this game though. Like Diablo, you can get a ton of content out of if you want.
Yeah.
If you want to do all the end game stuff. So it's hard for us to really say if it's worth the money so far when we haven't even played it yet. But
yeah, I think it depends on how many hours you put into Diablo and how you play Diablo. If you play Diablo the right way, the way Blizzard wants, and yeah, it's probably worth it. If you play it like an idiot like me, then probably not. But it depends how you play it, I guess. If you play it the right way or the wrong way. But if you love Diablo, you'll buy it. Like Diablo has like its hardcore fans. I think they're all gonna buy it. And for them, they all love Diablo too. Like I know every season there's like problems and like issues, and they're not doing this right or they're not doing that right, and then the next season they're gonna fix it. But I think the overall reception so far has been pretty great. To Diablo 4, rightfully so. It's a great game.
It's gonna be interesting. Yeah, we'll see how things go there, especially with PoE coming out very soon.
Yes.
Which is like their main competitor, I guess. So that'll be interesting time.
Yeah.
But yeah, Locke, let me know how Diablo goes. I am curious about it. Like I said, I didn't finish the campaign, but I did have fun playing it. Like I liked the Necromancer a lot. It was great, but just never got around to finishing it.
I'll have a video out this week, but the video will basically tell you what I just told you, so you won't.
Everyone watch it though. Give Locke views.
Yes, sir.
All right, Matty, I am so curious about this one. Shattered Space came out. The Starfield expansion, the first one. It was been hyped up for a little bit. It sounded like, from what we heard about it and what I heard from Starfield fans, is it sounded like they were doing what everyone wanted out of Starfield.
Correct. Good assessment.
But you played it, and I saw some of your tweets, Matty, and you did not seem pleased with this game.
Not at all, in fact. I've done every side quest. I've explored every location that they provided. I did the main story. It's terrible. It's actually kind of set in. I'm like, this might be my least favorite in terms of expansions and DLC that include story. This is not accounting for like Fallout 4 Workshop and that sort of stuff. If we're looking at things that add story, this might be my least favorite thing they've ever done. Like, it's not good.
Wow.
I get there are a lot of people who are like, quality bar for Bethesda's never existed. Give me a fucking break, dude. They have made top tier DLC for a long fucking while, and Shattered Space is an insult to that sort of shit that they've made in the past. Like, this is not hitting a quality bar, in my opinion. It is just a landmass generated with a bunch of shit thrown on it that makes no sense why it's really there in most cases. And the side quests are laughably bad in some instances. Laughably. There was one I did that was for a botanist, and they send you out to do you have to investigate like 3 dead species. So you go out and you do that. You go back to them. They're like, okay, now we need 3 plants. You go back, you look at 3 plants. Then you go back to them and they send you back out. They're like, okay, 3 of these beacons are deactivated. Someone's fucking with us. So you go back out. Mind you, I'm cutting out all of the tedium of this, but you know, I'll give you a very abbreviated version. But like, you just do that back and forth 3 times. And they're like, it's the Crimson Fleet. Oh my God, is it really the Crimson Fleet? Like the villain group number 1. And you go and kill them, and that's it. Like, there's just no excitement. No thought. Like, if you told me, like, if I were to look at this product and go, what's the feeling in the building? It gives me such, we want to move the fuck on from this already. Especially because now this was supposed to be, for a lot of people, they were looking at it as, oh, you're taking a year to make this, which, like, by the way, the comparable was Far Harbor, which took them from November till May. So it's like they're taking double the time. They're answering the biggest piece of criticism, which is exploration, you know, handcrafted locations. Like, this is the traditional BGS experience. And all I can read from this is, God, do they want to move on so bad? Because there's just no life here. There's no, like, it really felt like to me, you know, there was that moment of when I finished Starfield, I did all the side content and everything. I was like, yeah, like, this is a flawed game. I still really like it. And it's definitely, compared to Fallout and Elder Scrolls, lower on the totem pole, for sure. But this has a high ceiling, and if they keep building with it, just like they did with Fallout, just like they did with Elder Scrolls, I could see myself loving it more and more. Because, like, famously, Fallout didn't love it first. Elder Scrolls, I did love it first, which is funny now because Fallout's like my favorite thing ever. But I know sometimes their games take a little to warm up. You spend more time with it. You see all the nooks and crannies, and you come to love it. Starfield was a much different case. But with Shattered Space, I was hoping this is step 1 to kind of creating the experience we were looking for. And the fact that, like, the worst criticism I think it's gotten so far is when people go, oh, it's more Starfield. If you like that, you're going to like this. No, Starfield is better than this. Starfield is much better than this, in fact. And that's the biggest lie of it all, in my opinion, is that people are telling you that things like the Region Industries quest line, like the Vanguard quest line, are just straight up so bad that what's in Shattered Space is offering you is on that level. It's like, no. Like, let's not get it twisted. Starfield can be something that's not people's cup of tea, and I get that. But Shattered Space is way worse than anything the base game offers. That's the problem. If it was just more Starfield, I wouldn't be sitting here complaining, because I think Starfield, against popular belief, I think Starfield actually has some pretty good quest lines. And I like the main story even. If it was more of that, I would not be that upset, because it at least would have had something interesting to do. But it didn't. The main quest line, a lot of people are talking about the length. I think that is a good talking point, because it's like a $30 expansion. You expect to be sitting with it for at least a decent amount of time, especially when for $10 more, you can get Shadow of the Earth Tree, or for that same price tag, you can get Phantom Liberty, So you got to look at the competition. It's been really steep with expansions. BGS has never been a stranger to that. They've been a leader in that category. But in another area, in their what used to be one of their strengths, they've been lapped because, with a maybe 5 hour storyline here, with very little choice and consequence impact and shit loot, you got something here that's just not creating impact to the rest of the game. Like, what's really cool about something like the Outer Worlds is, as they add the DLC to their game, you see the branching into the base game, because it's all supposed to be played before you get to the finale. And that's really cool. But even for me, I beat this expansion and then I loaded into the Unity, which I won't spoil what it is, but basically you can see the choices you've made and see how it impacts the ending. And that wasn't available there either. So they didn't even connect it in the ways they marketed it, seemingly like, oh, this will affect the settled systems, unless it's going to carry into DLC 2, where then you see them kind of pass the baton. But it feels very much segmented off from the rest of the game. And I thought at first that would be to its strength. Like, okay, you want to have this completely isolated experience where you land on the planet, all these quests live here, cool, and nothing really touches the rest of the game. But when the story kind of beckons that idea of like, hey, this is going to have some impact out here, and it doesn't, it sucks. It's a bummer, dude. It's a real, it's one I've wrestled with. Like, when I finished my review, I had like 16 hours in, and I put like another 5 or so in and wrapped everything else up just because I was coping. I was like, there's no way Like, I've disliked stuff they've done, like Fallout 76. I strongly disliked. I came to love it over time, or I should say like it, not love it. Let's not get carried away here. I came to like it over time, but I've had stuff from them I've not been a big fan of. Mothership Zeta, I don't think is very good. But Shattered Space is like one of the first things that they've made, which is like more traditional experience that they've handcrafted. I've been like, this fucking blows, dude. Like, this is not like, you're way better in this. And they need to take their head out of their ass. Like, that's part of my sorted out. I don't mean to jump around here, Brad, but just as a heads up, like, they need to get their head so far out of their ass. It's not even funny, especially when I got Emil Pagliarulo, the design director, saying it's the best game they've made. Todd calling the shit they make irresponsibly large. Like, they need to get their heads out of their asses because it's unacceptable what's happening here. This should have been way better. Way better.
Wow.
And I don't know if the belt's tightened on them where like they don't have budget, because this did feel oddly limited, but there was no review codes, there was no marketing, and it makes so much sense because it wasn't good. It wasn't good.
Yeah.
It should have been way better, especially for the quality I expect from them as RPG developers. The fact that they dared draw a line between this and Far Harbor is insulting, because Far Harbor is like, to me, the best thing they've made. And I, by the way, for the record, was not expecting that. I would love to be surprised and it was that, but Far Harbor to me is like their greatest DLC. But what I felt more than anything here is their quest designer, Will Shen, left after Starfield. And I think he also directed Far Harbor. And I think you're feeling his absence because the quest just felt so haptic and thoughtless and devoid of choice. Not as lore driven, not as character, certainly not as character driven. There's no interesting characters here. There's no new real character that you can attach yourself to, like their other DLC or storyline you can attach yourself to. What it feels like, I'll just say in conclusion, is a side quest / faction storyline that was planned for the base game, got cut, they attached to the premium edition of the game as a pre-order bonus, and sold to you much later. That's all it felt like to me. And maybe they built it out beyond the storyline onto a single plan and were like, okay, let's give this some meat and sell it for $30. It just did not pan out. I am deeply fascinated at what happened here, and I feel like there's more at play than just a bad product. Like, I feel something's going on with leadership or something's going on internally, because this is just, for the amount of time they spent on it, we already knew the Starfield updates are coming out slow, but the assumption was it's because they were doing this. Like, this was the thing they were spending all their time on and energy on. And when this came out, it's such a low bar, where, by the way, at least Starfield got to its mixed rating on Steam, despite some review bombing and some people being disappointed with it. Shattered Space is mostly negative. And if you look at the Xbox Play charts, it did not really move it up the charts at all. So there is no excitement, hype, or really love for this thing. This is like a widely disliked thing from BGS, which I think should be a come to Jesus, look in the mirror moment for them. I hope it is, because they desperately need it right now. If this is the shit they're putting out, they're better than this.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Metascore. This is for the Xbox reviews. It has a 58 right now from critics.
I think that's around Redfall, by the way, which I wouldn't call it as that bad, but I think that is Redfall territory.
Yeah, and the user review is 5.6. They're actually very close to each other. So, Maddie, I was very surprised to see this. Well, I played 10 hours of Starfield and I didn't really enjoy it that much because the nature of the game is just not for me. The sense of, all these planets or whatever, that's just not what I was looking for from those games. But I was like, okay, first expansion, it's been a year or so, over a year, or about a little over a year, and game's probably gone through a ton of patches. I know they added the vehicles and stuff like that, so they probably polished some things up. They learned probably a lot of things from this. And just to hear you tell me it's like, no, they've actually kind of gone backwards is very surprising. I mean, very disappointing.
Exactly, because the thing is, what I noticed leading into Shattered Space launch, the most foolish thing Bethesda did, if this needed more time, was rushing out. Which, again, I don't know if taking an extra couple of months would have done much, because the storylines just weren't good either. But the sad part is that as launch approaches, someone who covered this pretty actively, a lot of people were like, man, I really hope this is good. For all the shit slinging Starfield got at launch, and I think a lot of it was disingenuous. Not because people disagree with my opinion, but there were outlets like PC Gamer who reposted the same bullshit article 5 times in a row. There were sites that very clearly profited off of Starfield just being in the mud. And I don't think this was one of those cases. A lot of people were ready to champion the comeback of this game. And all you did was validate what everyone's been saying about you. And that was the worst thing you could do. That was the worst thing you could possibly do, is when everyone was saying BGS has lost their way, and a lot of folks are saying, no, they just tried something different, that when you went back to the original recipe, you burnt the food. That's what happened. You
Yeah.
made a horrible meal.
It's not a
And
good
you
sign.
validated what everyone's been saying about you. You know, for a lot of people, I think the reason Starfield was a shitstorm at launch is because it was kind of middling for a lot of folks. It was very validating. They're like, this is what I've been saying for a while. Like, they're not the same Fallout 3 and Skyrim developer you know and love. They're much different now. And this, again, is one of those points of like, see, they're not even putting out something of a high quality where even what I've seen that's been the most surprising, we'll talk about in Defining Duke, is fans who loved Starfield don't really like this. Spoiler, Cog wasn't a big fan.
Wow.
And Cog loved Starfield. So
yeah, wow.
I'm just saying, man, like he DM'd me. He's like, his DM was, why you got to be so right? I got a kick out of him because I could see he probably was like so fucking annoyed when he finished it. Like, that fucking guy, man. But we'll talk about it on the show. But look,
Yeah.
I think Cog's the gauge. A lot of people use me as the measuring stick for BGS. Not that Cog is devoid of criticism of them, by the way, when I say this, but I think I am pretty critical of them, as I am with any company, but I do love their games. They are my jam.
Yeah.
But Cog fucking loved Starfield. And if this dude is coming out saying, like, it's fine, or, you know, yeah, that main story wasn't it at all, I think BGS should be on lookout, because that's when you lose a fan like that, with the quality level like that, that's the problem. That's a big problem. So that's also kind of spoiler my sort out. So, you know, we can get into that segment because Bethesda needs to sort it
out. Lockmort, I know you were planning on playing this, but you hopped back into Starfield, you told me, right? And you were like, nah.
I feel so foolish. I've tried to convince Locke so many times to go to their chance. And now I'm just like, Locke, you were right all along. I'm so sorry.
Well, over the past year, Matty has convinced me, he has convinced me literally 4 times to go back to Starfield. And I've done it 4 times, and 4 times I finish it. Like I did it again a month ago or a month and a half ago. I put like, I think 20 hours into it. I'm just like, I find it boring. I can't help it. I want to like it because I love Bethesda games. I love Skyrim. I love Oblivion is in my top 3 of all time. I love Bethesda games. I was one of the people who loved Fallout 4, like Matty at launch. I thought Fallout 4, and I think Fallout 4 is amazing. One of my favorite games. So when Starfield launched, I figured, well, this is going to be great for me. This is going to be amazing. And it didn't click for me. It never clicked for me. Over the entire year, every time I went back to it, it just never clicked. And when I saw Shattered Space was coming out, I was like, okay, they're going to fix it. This is where they're going to fix it. They've listened to the feedback of all the people. This is the one. Todd said it in Matty's interview, the great interview on Matty's channel, where he said one location, the quests are more intersected. Like you get to explore more. You get to see everything more on one location. Brilliant. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. So when Shattered Space came up, I figured, well, yes, this is going to be my game. Finally, Starfield is something I can get excited for. And then when I talked to Matty and saw the other reviews, I was like, oh my God, how is this possible? That's like the unthinkable thing that happened here. Because like Matty said, now they're validating the people who already hated Starfield, even though that's not really the case. Because like you said, Matty, it's probably something different than the main game of Starfield. Mm-hmm. So now you've got basically 2 fan bases, or 1 fan base and 1 anti-fan base that's pissed off with you, which is very annoying and very stupid. I don't know how they'd let this happen. They must have known.
They had to have no review codes for press. Yeah. You know, the thing I've learned is like the content creator side of things, we get ostracized from review codes constantly. Like, just like, oh, like I've reached out for requests. They're like, oh, you're a creator, so we'll let you know when the creator team gets back. And I'm like, how about, can I just get a review code? Like, can I just do my job? And they like always push back. So with Bethesda, I was like, oh, it's the same bullshit again. But then when I heard press wasn't getting it, that's usually the telling sign. When press doesn't get it, you know, because they just command much more of the conversation according to these developers and publishers. When press doesn't get it, that's usually the red flag, which was the case here.
Yeah. It's usually not a good sign.
Yeah.
I kind of hope that, Matty, you can speak to this more, but I kind of hope they're just going to let it die now. Just move on. Forget about it. You don't think that's going to happen, right?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm of too much. I have a lot of Bethesda videos. I don't want to go too hard in one direction because I know what it'll end up looking like to the viewer, but there's like 3 different conversations laid out I want to have about Bethesda and their future. Like, one's about Elder Scrolls 6. One is that, like, what do you do with Starfield now? Because this was supposed to be at least a step forward in the positive direction. It's been the exact opposite. You've not only you've not only solidified the people who don't like you, but you've even whittled away the people who believed in you. And one thing Todd did say in that same interview that you were mentioning, Locke, is he said that the updates were going to slow down for Starfield leading into year 2. So this game's going to fade more, and there's not going to be a bigger desire for it. So they do have apparently a second expansion planned. I'm guessing maybe you finished that out, because the thing that was most illuminating to me with Starfield Shatterspace is I will say the planet hopping benefited this game a lot, and I didn't realize it until I played this expansion, because what I realized was the jump pack and everything like that makes this game so boring to explore, because you just float over everything. There's no intimate exploring. Like Bethesda games are so needed to be rooted on the ground, because when you're just drifting over everything and just pressing the Y button and just boosting forward a little bit and just floating to your objectives constantly, it's just, I don't know, dude, it's extremely boring to roam. And I didn't expect that, because I love roaming in their games, but also the vehicle doesn't feel good. It's starting to feel like a failed experiment in a lot of ways. And I get on the creative side of things, they probably wanted to get out of their system, and I'm glad they did. But if they do hang it up here, I'll say this: I went from stick with it, you've got something here, to if you move on, I'm not going to be upset. And that's a pretty big shift for me, because normally I'm like, no, hang with it, like you got something. Fallout 4 was a perfect example, like, because Far Harbor was like a massive clapback of like everyone was saying they can't make role-playing experiences, and they did like one of their best evers, if not the best ever they've done across all of their games in the terms of just agency and thought-provoking writing. Like they just did that. And so when this wasn't that moment, even by a fraction of it, I feel like they kind of might just, what is the player base? You look at right now on Steam, and like last I saw it was 17,000. If you're looking at it in a silo, just on Steam alone, Xbox, you throw on a little bit more. The only thing I think gives this game more legs is the PS5 release, which I think probably happens next year. And I think you do a PS5 release with Shattered Space, and you announce the new DLC with that and restart that conversation, because no doubt it'll be controversial, because, the best version of Starfield is now on PlayStation. You do the PS5 Pro Enhanced version. I think that's what gives this game the shot in the arm, because right now, otherwise, I do think it's like dead in the water as we speak. Like, I don't think anyone has a strong, I should say anyone, because I know there are people listening who do. I think most people, especially with how great games have been lately, don't have the strong desire to go back to Starfield. Don't have the strong desire to give this DLC a chance when it's so overwhelmingly negative right now. I think they're just up shit's creek without a paddle. And so it's a shame. It really is. But the best thing the lucky for them, the best thing they can do is move on to the thing everyone is at least extremely curious about, which is Elder Scrolls 6, which hopefully is true to the older Elder Scrolls experiences, in that it's on foot. It's much more handcrafted, because that's the narrative. I'll just say in conclusion, the narrative Bethesda's been running with Shattered Space and Starfield is it has its own identity now, and it sits beside Fallout and Elder Scrolls. So I'm like, okay, you're acknowledging that even if Starfield's messy and procedural and open-ended and whatever everyone else wants to call it, that is the Starfield identity, and that is not what Fallout and Elder Scrolls are. So if I see like a hint of Starfield in Elder Scrolls and Fallout, I'm gonna be like, what the fuck's going on here then? Like, I thought that was that series' identity, whereas Elder Scrolls and Fallout are like on foot adventure kind of games. So yeah, man, it's gonna be, it's dampened my hype for Elder Scrolls 6 a little bit, where I'm just like, you just can't help but look at it and go, like, do they still got it? This was your on foot experience. This was your traditional BGS experience in Starfield. Like, this is the best you could put together. Again, that's why I say I get such like, get us the fuck out of here energy. Like, they're just like stuck at a social gathering and they just want to go home so badly. That's the vibe I got from Shattered Space. Anyway, I've ranted.
Damn.
I call it Starfield sharded in space now. So
I wanted to return to Starfield just to get another shot, and I still kind of do, but it has dropped severely back further in my queue of games I want to play now. Now that I'm hearing from everyone, even like Matty and Cog, it's just like not it right now. So I'm like, okay, well, there's no sense of urgency for me to return to this game anytime soon.
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. The updates could benefit them or hurt them. after like 150 hours in Starfield, dude, it's like I'm just going back to Skyrim, Fallout. Like I'm going back to the Fallout 4. Like I'm just way more invested in going back to those, which says something about Starfield at this point,
That's the good news, right? Because now suddenly Fallout 4 is an amazing game to everyone.
It's so annoying, dude. It's so annoying. I've been getting comments on my original review like, wow, you were right all along. I'm like, fuck off, dude. You're probably the same motherfucker in here telling me how stupid I was back then.
Man, that's funny. All right. It's time for Sort It Out. On this segment, we just kind of, talk about something that needs sorting in the game industry. Could be a game, could be a company, could be an individual at a game company. Mm-hmm. I'll just go first one because I just thought of this. Ubisoft. Oh, man, what the hell are you guys doing? You guys are just bleeding out in the game. For everyone to see on display. You're just dying there. You're delaying Lockport's beloved Assassin's Creed. Mm-hmm. He's very heartbroken about it. He was very excited. I'm not kidding. Also, Locke is actually excited for it. So it's disappointing. But Skull and Bones, horrible. I could have told you that game was a disaster many, many years ago. It saved you hundreds of millions of dollars. Everyone could have told you that. You're not it right now. Everything you're doing is not good. Prince of Persia was good, but that ain't going to move the needle. And they're in dire straits right now. They are in big ass trouble right now. They are not looking good. Their stocks have been horrible. Mm-hmm. They got to figure something out. They got to sort their shit out quick. Like out of every publisher, they got a lot of work to do. So you guys got to figure that out, man. You got to do something. And where the hell is that Splinter Cell remake? Yeah. Come on, man. How many years ago did they announce that thing? It's just like we haven't seen anything. I wouldn't be surprised if it's canceled, as sad as that would be. But Ubisoft, you got to sort it out, man.
Right. What do you think about them potentially? It just was announced by them that they're exploring like all potential options. Like they acknowledged the rumor that they might get bought out by Tencent. What do you think about that? Like, what a Ubisoft way to go, Tencent buying them out.
Yeah, that'd be so weird. I mean, I guess they're just desperate to stay alive in some way, but they're just such a weird ass company that makes a lot of weird decisions. They're a huge company too, humongous company, and like I'm trying to think of like a AAA game they did recently. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. That's been like universally loved or critically acclaimed.
And yeah, AAA is a good point because you think Prince of Persia that was pretty loved.
Yeah,
but
Prince of Persia is
AAA to my understanding. So, oh god, it's got to be since like
Odyssey, right? That's
the
last one.
Yeah, I guess
loved.
so.
Somewhere in that pocket of Origins, Valhalla, Odyssey. They're so like divisive. Like Odyssey, like Valhalla has like really bad online presence. Like when you bring it up to like fuck that game, but it's like also the game that really kept Ubisoft afloat throughout the years that they've been struggling because it sold so well that like a lot of people loved that game. I really enjoyed it. It's definitely extremely bloated though, but yeah, they're in such an interesting spot right now. They have such great IP. You'd hate to see it all go to Tencent, frankly. People think like the time savers and the monetization is really bad now at Ubisoft, but just fucking wait, man. If you think Tencent gets a hold of it, it's over, man. It's going to be way worse. So I'm pulling for them. I hope they figure it out, but I do think the Guillemot family needs to go. It seems very clear that they remind me for Mets fans out there. I'll save the whole explanation, but they remind me a lot of the Wilpons where they're owners of this franchise, but they refuse to spend on players for the baseball team. And so the team just goes out and is mid every year, but the Wilpons are making a ton of money from people just buying like tickets and, buying jerseys and buying all this shit. So they're good enough to exist. And I think it's the same thing here with Ubisoft and Guillemot family is that they're making a shit ton of money, but only them. And that's why you have like significant minority shareholders writing open letters saying things like, hey, like we need change. Like we need to challenge them. Like we need to like put into a vote and like see if we can get them out because they want to, at least on paper, they're saying they want to focus on quality and investing in these games. But it's clear what the Guillemot family cares about because they're just, you look at all the. Can you believe Skull and Bones was this year? Can you believe that? Yeah. Top of this year. I almost forgot. I was like, holy shit. Like, yeah, between Assassin's Creed Shadows and that whole kerfuffle and then the quality of Star Wars Outlaws, I forgot that their quadruple A pirate game that was in development for like 8 years came out this year. They're in a fuck spot, man. Terrible spot.
They do have the Black Flag remake coming next year.
Yes,
said, right?
That's the rumor. Next year. But
So-
they said the whole
so-
pipeline got delayed for Assassin's Creed because of Shadows, so that might
Yeah.
be like 2026 now.
Because Skull and Bones is basically that technology they used in there. That's what they're gonna do, right? It's Singapore making the game, right? So they're just gonna use
it's so
it in
baffling
that
that it even fucking exists when you think about it. Because all they needed to do was just, I guess I put it simply, like, all they needed to do, but like it had all of the pieces for Black Flag. I was just like, why didn't you just make that instead? Like it would have just made way
Yeah.
more noise and money. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Why didn't you just make an actual open world pirate game instead of the ship sim battle thing? I don't know. You could have made a whole new IP if there's just like a pirate game or something like
The
that.
funniest thing about Skull and Bones is like I played a decent amount of it, and like the pirate ship combat is worse compared to Black Flag in my opinion.
Oh my god!
Which is like mechanically, it's way more intensive. I think in Black Flag, it's a little more arcadey. Whereas this is like a little more of a simulation. But that was the weirdest thing to me. I was like, why'd you guys do a whole game about this and do it worse? Like, how does that even fucking happen? So yeah, Ubisoft. I agree. They definitely need to sort it out.
So the alleged budget or the alleged amount that Ubisoft spent on Skull and Bones is 650 million or 850 million between that.
Brilliant.
That's a lot of money
Brilliant
for a dog shit game. Obviously, we saw that happen with Concord, which was horrible in how much they spent on that game. It's, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
You gotta sort that shit out.
Yeah.
All right. Lockmort, what about you?
I also had Ubisoft in my notes.
Ooh.
You already touched on everything, but I also had a second one, and my second one was going to be Dragon Age and BioWare.
From you? Okay.
Well, I'm one of the few people like Matty, I think, who's very excited for Dragon Age.
Yeah.
And like
everyone who's played it says it's good.
Well, I haven't played it, but I'm
No,
so excited.
Well, you love Dragon Age, though. You love Dragon Age, though.
Exactly. So I'm very excited for it. I can't wait to play it. But I think BioWare, or EA, I should say, and maybe the Dragon Age team, but mostly EA, is making a big mistake with the marketing for this game. And they basically ruined it for themselves. Because this game is nowhere near doing as well as it should be, I think. I think the marketing for this game has been atrocious. And the latest example of that was during was it the PlayStation? What was it called?
State of Play. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Where they showed like that big dragon fight, which looked awful. It looked stupid. It looked silly, which is not how this game is supposed to look. And then everything coming out about the game, and then recently they released they released another marketing thing where they said like the Dragon Keep that they had in the previous games is not going to be here, so that you can only have like 3 choices from the previous games, which is fine. Because if they explain it the right way, as it is, I think, like The Witcher 3 did it, which also only had like 4 or 5 choices that you could pick at the beginning, it would be absolutely fine. But the way they word their marketing is so wrong. It's so insulting to people who haven't played it and to longtime fans that it's working it's working the opposite way. So now you've got people who are Dragon Age fans who are upset and not willing to buy it. And you've got especially the people who've never played Dragon Age who are saying that this game is woke or DEI or whatever you want to call it, and they're never touching it, which I kind of get, but Dragon Age has always been that way, so that's not really something you can fault them for. But the marketing only made it worse, and they keep doing it. Like they released a statement yesterday that they went gold, and they used like a stupid little image there. It's just it's all so stupid and avoidable. It makes me sad because this game, I think this game is going to be great, and for Dragon Age fans like myself, I think this game could be the end or like the pinnacle, like the Return of the King moment from Lord of the Rings. So this game could be amazing, and I think and I hope it will be. But it's going to be ruined because you already know that it's going to be bombarded by hateful reviews and people who aren't going to play it are going to say it sucks, which maybe it will. I don't know. So it just makes me sad because this was really a game I was looking forward to. I know I will play it. I know I will love it. But I also know that I have to keep away from the internet for 2 or 3 weeks until I finish it because it's going to get spoiled. People are going to hate it. And that's mostly because of the horrible marketing around this game, which is something that could have been avoided. So my sorted out is for BioWare EA.
Yeah.
Yeah, you really wonder, like perception's everything. And it's become a gaslighting campaign of like, if you've played the game, everyone's apparently saying the same thing. We've all been told to say it was fucking good, whatever sense
Yeah.
that makes. And it just goes to show that, like, what happens if this is re-revealed with not that awful trailer and they just lead in with those 15 minutes of gameplay? I think for many people, they'll still say the gameplay didn't look as good. And that goes to point two. What happens if they actually handed the controller to someone who was decent at the game and actually someone who knew how to edit gameplay and just cut out the parts that are fun to play, like you're dodging, you're moving around, you get knocked down, you make a mistake here and there, and instead make the most exciting parts what you're showing off. Like that trailer that was at the state of play for Veilguard with the mage gameplay may have been one of the worst fucking things I've seen for a, like, hey, come buy this game. And I played the game and I was like, I played the mage. It's way better than whatever the fuck you guys are doing. It's at the point where I'm like, someone's sabotaging the game. like I'm like, there's someone in the building who's just like, how can we fuck this up? Because it's like every step of the way they have done a terrible job showing this game off. Every step of the way. And I admire BioWare's transparency, like their blog posts leading into the reveal, their reasons behind changes. They've always been open about it, and I think that's really good. I wish more teams did that. But yeah, what's happened with Dragon Age is like we've talked about it extensively, Lockley. We both think it's not gonna succeed. Like, this game's gonna fail. It's just there's no fucking way this thing gets out of it unscathed. It's not getting pre-ordered a lot. There's now with the keep decision, it's the same thing we talked about Bethesda. Right? You had like your core fans who were there backing you up saying like, look, it's not everything we want, but it looks pretty good. And then you had the people who were against it saying like, this is awful. See? And then you do something with the keep. And now I'm looking at like hardcore Dragon Age fans even going like, great. Okay. Like, I'm less interested now. Like, because all my choices in these past 3 games are probably not going to be accounted for in a way I care about. Even if they're little cameos. And so you're losing both sides now. And it's really hard to like champion a game like that for anyone, because it's just like it's in such a shit spot. And when that many, it's the same thing with Ubisoft, right? At first you're like toxic minority, vocal minority, but it gets louder and you're like, there's something wrong here. And you have to look at it critically, because then you risk being what happens to Ubisoft, right? You don't acknowledge it and you bury your company with it. Here we're seeing it with BioWare. I hope they acknowledge it and do something about it, whether it be, it's too late for Veilguard, but for Mass Effect, whatever adjustments they need to make, I hope they do make them, because this is, I don't even know if they get to Mass Effect if this fails. Frankly, I don't think they do. So I'm a little worried about them in that regard, but we'll see what happens. But I'm with you. I hope whoever's marketing this game sorts out a new job for themselves out of marketing, because they're terrible at it.
Do you think this is the end of BioWare if this doesn't do well? Will this finally be the last straw?
Yes. I just think the industry is too expensive and in too much of an unpredictable time, where you have Respawn doing everything from Battlefield to Star Wars Jedi. They're your single player team. They're making you a lot of money. They're way less of a headache. And I think this is it for BioWare if it fails. And I don't want it to be it for BioWare. I'm not someone who's like, that's the weird thing about the industry now, is like, it's one thing if people don't like certain games, but a weird change in our industry is people championing the downfall and the death of companies that are historically really important to our industry, like a BioWare. And that's one thing I won't do, but I have to be real with the situation and say, yeah, if you're going to, think of how long they took to make Andromeda. That was like an 8-year development cycle. And then Anthem was another tumultuous development cycle. Then they go away, and it's been 10 years since the last Dragon Age game. They've spent another, if you're looking at it from Anthem, which was, when did Anthem come out? Was that 2018? 2019. So you look at the 5-year gap there. Development costs have gone up. Your games aren't selling as well as they used to. The last great seller they had was in Inquisition, which was like 10 plus million, which is really good, by the way. But that's not going to carry you for this amount of time. And unless EA is feeling like we cannot suffer the optical black eye, where if we shut this company down, we're going to lose ourselves with it. I think if Dragon Age doesn't perform, at least in the terms of breaking even, I think they're done. And they get downsized considerably.
Well, the only thing that can save it right now is word of mouth. So hopefully it's really good, and then the reviews are really good, and then people who actually play it can say it's really good. Otherwise, it's...
I was with you, right? Like when I walked away from the preview, I heard a lot of people talking. I was like, this is going to be really positive for them, it seems like. And it was that. I didn't see any negative previews or people going like, oh, I'm not really sure about this. Like, it seemed like everyone, for the most part, who was there really liked their time with it. And it only, I feel... and maybe because I was in the center of a lot of that coverage, I feel like it's only exaggerated the problems of the game, because they've They gave us the ability to capture like 6 hours of gameplay, post whatever we really wanted within reason, no like story spoilers. And they were just like, still people were like, this is awful looking. I mean, that was surprising with some of the great characters that were there, Lucanus especially. Like I thought there was some stuff people were going to be like, okay, hold up. But it is in that pocket right now where it feels like destined to fail. And I don't want it to, but it does. We've seen this story too many times before to act like it's not going to happen again is how I'm approaching it.
Damn.
Yeah.
All right. On that positive note, Maddie, you're sorted out as well.
I'm all right. We don't have to go over me because it was Bethesda, right? It was just that whole thing about, just I think they need to do better. So I don't want to bloat the show too much with another rant on them. I think Bethesda needs to sort it out. Though.
I'll just say I'm very worried about Skyrim or Elder Scrolls 6. Yeah. Very concerned.
Yeah.
Because I think Fallout 4 people like, and I think there's some good things there, but the problem with Fallout 4 for me was I played The Witcher 3 before it. Then I played Fallout 4 and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know, man. They just don't seem like the leaders of the genre to me that they used to anymore.
They're not. Yeah, they're not.
So
it's people always think it's a point of defense, but it's just like the intimate knowledge I've gathered of the company for covering them for years is like they're understaffed. And that's why some of their games are impressive. Like for, what is like a 200 something man team to make a game like Starfield is impressive. But the competition is elevated, and really Bethesda for the games they want to make should not be a 400 size developer working on 4 games at once. You should be putting all your manpower into Elder Scrolls 6. You shouldn't be, walking the line. I know 76 makes the money, but I'm saying like they should have been walking the line with 76, and we have a mobile team working on Elder Scrolls Castles, which is literally just a reskin of Shelter. And if you're gonna do this much, you need the manpower to represent that. And that's their biggest issue, dude, is beyond many, is that their ambition is way bigger than their team size. And that's what made them different back then. They would have a 100-man team make Oblivion. It was like, holy shit. But back then we were okay with the same dungeons looking the same way for like 300 hours. It's much different now. They need to evolve their way of thinking. That's where I say head out of ass energy needs to be adopted ASAP, in my opinion.
Yeah. When do we get in that game? 2028, do you think?
I was originally going to say 6, but after all of this, I think you go back to the drawing board a little bit. I think you really dial in, make sure it's good, go away for a good long while. Bethesda's more active than ever, so they're not really going to go away per se, like they used to. But I think in the terms of a main game entry for them, I think 28 is a good number. I think, if they started active development after Starfield, you may even see 29. It's possible. I mean, this thing's been in development since 18. So when you think about it like that, that's when it was announced. So when they started hiring
that's
for
true.
it. They've done updates for it. They've done like scans for character models. They've seemingly done some of the landmass work for it. So I'm sure now they're in full like content work for it. But I will say this, if it shows well, there is a magic to Elder Scrolls that can recapture people. I don't want it to be too doom and gloom. I think it's very easy right now to look at it and go, they're fucked. But look, man, if you capture even an ounce of Skyrim, I think you're going to get a lot of people who are like, fuck yeah. I just hope you don't attract any of the people who call it Skyrim 2. Those people can go away. Skyrim 2. Anyone who says Skyrim 2 just needs to drop the controller and find a new hobby now.
All right, let's hear from the audience. This is from Sean Sunderud. Hey, Summoners, I have a sorted out from Microsoft and their major lack of marketing for Xbox games. You never would have thought that an expansion to one of their biggest recent releases had just come out. I've seen little to no advertising for Shattered Space. Would you believe that the next Call of Duty is out at the end of the month? Again, barely a sniff from Microsoft. I know Call of Duty sells itself, but surely you would be pushing it massively that's coming day one to Game Pass. I've even seen comments that Atlas shouldn't have done an Xbox marketing deal for Metaphor, ReFantazio. Thoughts? What do you think about this, Matty? As someone, our guy on the ground with Xbox.
Yeah, I think when it comes to Microsoft marketing, it's a really interesting conversation because I think blaming Xbox for Metaphor is weird. I think that because with that, like Atlas is out there putting up trailers. I just don't know if they're gathering the interest because I don't think people are drawing the line like, oh, this is the Persona team doing this. And I think they've done all they can. They've done previews. They gave early, like, I think what I heard was reviewers had Metaphor since like the middle of fucking September, dude. So Like they were confident in it. They handed it out really early. So I think blaming Xbox for metaphor is a little short-sighted because I don't think if I have a PlayStation logo next to it, I don't think it makes a difference. Like I just don't. Like it's just the trailer numbers across the board, even since its reveal, have been very soft, which always surprised me and worried me a bit. And I think Japanese teams need to rein in the naming conventions a little bit. Like that's just not a metaphor. ReFantazio is like, what the fuck is that, dude? Like, I think I get it based on I played a little bit of the game, but I think generally speaking, it's the same thing with like Octopath Traveler, Triangle Strategy. It's like you guys just gotta someone fucking reel them in and just like narrow down to like the themes of the game or something like that, not the mechanics. But yeah, I think I would not blame Xbox for that. He says, I know COD sells itself, but surely you would be pushing it massively if it's coming day one to Game Pass. As someone who does a lot of coverage, I feel like they've been pushing it. Like when the beta was coming around, they were like, play it first with Game Pass. I think they've really attached themselves to it in a way where they kind of are riding it right into launch. So I think they've done a lot for that. They literally had a whole developer direct on their own stage dedicated to it. So I think that they are connecting themselves to it a lot. Whether it turns over the results they're hoping for is a whole different conversation. And I've been of the camp that when it comes to Call of Duty and Game Pass, that they're playing with fire there. Like you just don't mess with a good thing. Call of Duty is guaranteed to make you a lot of money. Just leave it as such, but they're taking the chance to probably keep Game Pass alive. I don't know what happens next year if it doesn't pan out or they don't like sustain those subscribers, but I guess that's a whole other conversation. But I don't blame Xbox in the terms of Call of Duty marketing because I think it's very out there. We all know it exists. We know when it's coming out. The beta's there. I'm very critical of their marketing. Shattered Space, it just might be a bad storm for Sean just because Shattered Space was bad and I think they were hiding it. I was wondering the same thing. Like, this is the turnaround, right? This should be talked about, but it's funny because all of us should have expected it, but yeah, it wasn't very good. I think Xbox's marketing, really where I was most critical of it this year was Hellblade 2. I didn't like Hellblade 2, but for a first party exclusive to not get any sort of marketing like it did is it was a disgrace as far as I was concerned. Like they need to do way better. Even if this game, which they had every reason to be confident in it, because a lot of people really liked it, and visually there's nothing better looking than it. You can at least hang your cap on that. This should have been something they should have been shouting from the rooftops, and they did a terrible job at that. That's where I kind of give them critical feedback. Is their exclusives. Their exclusives just they aren't good at marketing them for whatever reason it may be. Especially Hellblade, it's like that was their only one in the top half of the year. Like there was no distractions, no like outside of course the multi-platform mess, but there was no distractions in the terms of like other releases. Like it was just their moment, and we saw what happened. Apparently, it sold well enough according to like LinkedIn posts and stuff. People have scavenged up on the internet. We don't know for sure, but it seems to have done decent enough where it's earned itself another game. Just no one knows.
We've heard that before from them.
We have. Exactly. We're in a trust no one phase with Xbox for sure. But yeah, sorry for the long answer. That's where I look at Microsoft critically with their marketing is Hellblade. But the others, I think they've either been fine or they're not really to blame for.
Yeah, cool. All right, this is from Loom and Doom. Hey, Summoners, I'd like to give a sword out to gaming discourse. The other day, I saw a tweet on Twitter criticizing localization changes in metaphor, and judging by how the tweet frames it, I thought the changes were going to be pretty bad. The example provided was for some changes in dialogue for Gallica, the fairy. When I looked at the changes, they were so small that it wasn't even worth highlighting. The change was that Gallica is a bit more sassy in English script. I talked with a guy in the replies who seemed really upset about it, and I tried to have a discussion with him. But I felt like I was talking to a brick wall since he was just parroting talking points such as woke and whatnot. I told him it wasn't a big deal compared to other egregious examples of changes in the past, like in some Fire Emblem games. But to him, it was a crime against humanity as part of some leftist agenda. In the end, he called me a conservative for being okay with it, and that was basically the end of the exchange. We need nuance in gaming discourse. Things are not always black and white, and things deserve to be looked at on a case-by-case basis. Anyways, have a great rest of the show and keep up the good work. Loom, Twitter's not a good place to have discussions about games.
No.
Once in a while, maybe you'll get a good conversation, but most of the time, no. People aren't interested in really having an actual conversation, a serious conversation. It's just drive-by comments often.
Yeah.
People are just making fun of something because they can or whatever like that. And I mean, that's their right to do, and it's just kind of the way it is. So I would not personally go to Twitter for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I just talked to Locke about this. I posted some thoughts on the new Joker movie, and I immediately took down the tweet in like 5 minutes, which is not my energy, but I put it out. I got like 2 drive-by comments, and I went, I got to get out of this mindset that this is a place to actually have a conversation, because it's not.
Yeah, right.
Like, it's not. I'll still post stuff there. I'll post my reviews there. I'll still interact there. Like, I'm not off the site completely, but in the terms of like opinion sharing beyond my reviews, like I'm just not doing it, because it used to be a spot where I'd be like, what did you all think of this? And it was definitely like not as ridiculous as it is now, but it's an always on the offensive website. And let me get the gentleman's name here, as Loom Doom put it, very black and white. Like, I don't want to engage with people whose vernacular expands as far as a YouTube title. So like, that's where you find a lot of that on fucking Twitter, on both sides of the fence, might I add, for the political spectrum. It's just, I'm not interested in that. So you find a lot of that there. It's not good conversation. Save it for YouTube. Or if you're like Loom Doom, like Reddit's pretty good now. Reddit's like the promised land at the moment for a lot of people for just conversation. Doesn't mean you're always going to agree. Or of course our Discord. LSM Discord's pretty great. I still go in there.
Yeah. All right, it's time for Keep It Up, the exact opposite stuff we're pleased with in the gaming industry. Lockmore, let's start with you, dude.
It pains me to do this, but I have to give it to Atlas for finally making a game that's not bad. So good on them. Finally they have a Weep game that's not a huge miss. So great job, Weeps. Good job. You have your probably game of the year in Metaphor. I can't even pronounce it. Metaphor.
ReFantazio.
You pronounce it the way Dustin did on Twitter.
Yeah, you could do that.
I could, but then people will get upset.
Risk your whole career. I'll have to fire you on the spot, but
thank you for calling it a career. That's nice of you. But I have to give it up to them. We'll get into it later. I played the demo. I think tremendous job. What a feat to make, like to come from Persona, which is not for someone like me, to make like basically Lord of the Rings is tremendous. I think they did a great job. I think fantastic. So they deserve every accolade they get.
Right on.
Wow.
I like, Locke, you are our resident Westaboo. You are a big fan of the West and not the East. But you're surrounded by people that love Japanese things. Like us, me, Maddie, everyone pretty much. Mm-hmm. So we're always just kind of prodding you. You got influence, dude. Get influenced, Locke. You're on the Metaphor train with the rest of us.
I got influence.
Happy to have you.
Because the game is good, Brad. Not because people told me it was good. People have been telling me for years that Persona 5 is good, and I've tried playing it a bunch of times. I was like, no.
But you did play it. You got influenced, even if you didn't like it.
That is true. That's a good point. Well, it's not that I didn't like it. I was just like, this is not for me. While now they made like a Persona type game for someone like me, I think.
Yeah,
which is pretty cool, pretty important, and pretty good on them for doing that. They could have easily not done that. So no, I think wow, I'm really impressed with them. It makes me well, like I said before on this show, I always wish that I was into that stuff, because there's so much of it and everyone loves it so much, and the reviews for it are always so high that I always feel like I'm missing out because I'm not into it. But with this one, maybe I can finally get it. I can finally get that.
It definitely, like, it won COG over as well, because it's not any of that like high schooler energy or whatever. It's very much a more mature Persona approach. Like, it's like Three Kingdoms. It's, lots of death and politics and all that shit. So I think if there is a JRPG you've been looking for, I guess there's I was surprised when I heard you were playing like 3 Reload at one point. I was like, you're doing what? That was a hell of a surprise for me. But I think Metaphor would be more up your alley, just from what I played like 2 hours of it. I was like, this is going to be life-changing good shit here, at least for me and Brad.
Yeah.
It's
excellent for what I played. All right, Maddie, what about you?
All right, keep it up, crazy crossovers. I love in IP crossover. I think it's really fun. We got Lucy and Guilty Gear Strive. Like, that's a crazy, like, the anime for Cyberpunk, just got a character from that showing up in a fighting game. Fighting games are known for crossovers, but like, hey, dude, Stellar Blade and Nier, like, that's an awesome dream collab. I think where like this is a game very inspired by Nier, and then you have like Nier involved in this product. Like I just think it's cool. Reynatus was not a great game in my opinion at all, but it did have a Neo The World Ends With You crossover in there. And I think that a lot of developers are a little too siloed off with their IP. And there's fun ways to just get involved with each other. Like I remember Final Fantasy 15 had an Assassin's Creed quest line
Yeah.
and everything. It was fucking great, dude. I love crossover stuff. I think it's so fun. I know it's not easy to pull off because I'm sure there's legality hurdles to leap. But when they figure that out, it really does make some kind of special magic. Like I wanted to play Stellar Blade originally during the summer. We were launching Retro Rewind at the time, and I had a couple of reviews on the docket where I didn't get to Stellar Blade until later, and then I bought it when I saw the Nier collab. Like it's effective for me because I saw that I was like, oh man, like I knew I wanted to play this, but now I really want to get in there. So I think collabs are just super fun. You see a lot of Japanese companies doing it. Like I know Persona's done crossovers. The ultimate crossover game is Smash. PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale. Like I love crossovers and collabs. Like I'd love for Xbox to do something like that with a fighting game or whatever, or like a Fusion Frenzy style game with all the Xbox IP. I think that'd be really cool too. Like I just love that sort of stuff. So keep it up because we're seeing more of it more often and in bigger ways. And I love that stuff. You know, beyond just like guest characters in a fighting game, there's other companies out there. You have like Final Fantasy crossing into Power Wash Simulator or SpongeBob and Power Wash Simulator. You know, Smite does a lot of crossovers like with Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
So I think that stuff's really fun, dude. I love it. I want more of it. So I'm very excited about that. And I hope we continue to see it on the upward trend as we have.
Yeah, dude. Definitely. You didn't even bring up the biggest crossover,
Which
seems
one?
like, which is Fortnite.
Oh,
The amount of crossovers in that is like insane.
Yeah, true.
How much shit's in there. It's crazy.
Overwatch too.
Yeah, Overwatch got a couple. Yeah. They're like Cowboy Bebop and My Hero Academia.
Did you get the My Hero skins?
What's the next topic?
Yes, he did.
No, I did not. Don't put that on me. Don't put that on me.
He did. My keep it up is the same as Julio Mendez is here. Hola, summoners. Greetings from Venezuela. Keep it up. Or my keep it up is for Bloober Team. Despite all the odds and expectations stacked against them, they managed to deliver a very good game. Silent Hill 2 basically pulled a reverse Concord and Suicide Squad, and we should celebrate that. This is something that rarely happens in the industry. The only other example I could think of was Doom 2016. Regardless, I'm glad that Silent Hill is good again, and hopefully, Bloober will use this experience to grow as a developer.
It's a really good way of thinking of it. Reverse Concord and Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. So well done, Bloober. You got your flowers. Against all odds, you succeeded. So well done. Got to celebrate that.
Yeah.
All right. And this other one is from Sergio D. Vivo. My keep it up is for Falcom. Been playing Kai no Kaiseki, and it's just amazing. Additionally, they announced Trails in the Sky remake for all consoles, which will bring in a whole new set of fans. Maddie, give Falcom some love on the show on behalf of all of us Falcom fans. Brad, play it. Locke, please ignore it. Or please ignore. I'm going to play it.
Right.
I was going to play it earlier, but Maddie told me to wait because he was sniffing a remake, and he was right.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad that all played
when it comes out.
I'm still chipping
when it comes out,
Brad, so I'm going to put you in the Maddie gauntlet soon between this and KOTOR. You're going to be feasting on all of my delicious food here that I've been enjoying for a while, and I'm excited to share that with you. But yeah, man, Falcom has been great, and I'm very excited for the Trails in the Sky remake because I'm curious to see how well it does. Like, there's, everyone's been looking for a starting point. They're giving it to you, so we'll see what they do there. And then I think we talked about on Summon Sign, we'll see what they do next. If they're going to remake Sky 2 and 3, I imagine by the name of it that they're going to remake Sky 2 and 3, but you never know with today's game development environment. But yeah, they've been doing great. The fact that they're releasing East 10 this year is nuts. So yeah, they got a lot going on. They're very busy.
That's crazy. All right, boys. Just quickly, I've been playing Castlevania Order of Ecclesia. Ecclesia, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but the Castlevania Dominus Collection came out a little while ago. That is the DS games. There's 3 of them. There's Dawn of Sorrow, Portrait of Ruin, and this one. And this is one of the only Castlevania games I haven't played. So I was like, okay, now's the great opportunity for me to finally play it. And just for anyone out there, these Castlevania games are in the Metroidvania style, not the old school traditional like stages going through them side scroller. However, this one is interesting because it kind of has some aspects like that. So if you've played Symphony of the Night, you know everything takes place in Dracula's castle itself. Some of the other ones are kind of like that as well. One huge interconnected map. This game is interesting in the sense that it's more like stages, I would say, at least at a part of the game, earlier parts of the game. So they're like, you have a world map, essentially you see on the DS screen, and you pick a location you go to. And when you go into that location, then it is like the traditional Metroidvania kind of map thing. Except a lot of the areas aren't super huge. They're more like shorter stages you go through, which is kind of cool. And you have a hub town you go to back and forth during the game with this, which is this village. And when you get there, there's no one there. There's a merchant there who sells some stuff, which is cool. But throughout the game, you can collect or find these villagers that have gone missing, and they come back to the town eventually. And they're required to get like the true ending of the game and all that kind of stuff. So you're going to want to collect all of them. But also they give you side quests that'll help you on your journey. Like one of the guys you rescue is a blacksmith. And he's like, hey, if you bring me, I don't know, 3 silver ore, I can start making you better equipment and stuff like that. So one of the guys is a photographer or a journalist. I think he gives you a camera and you take pictures of like certain creatures for stuff for him like that. One of them you bring fabric to and she makes you new clothes. So there's some stuff like that. There is incentive to do these quests to get better equipment for everybody. But this game's really tough. This is one of the toughest Metroidvanias I can think of from the Castlevania aspect. It's much tougher than Symphony of the Night, particularly because the bosses have way too much health. I just think the bosses are so damn spongy and they do quite a bit of damage. They're kind of cool though. Like one of them's interesting earlier on. It's like you're in this tower and there's a giant crab that comes up from the bottom and he's snipping at you and he's blowing bubbles and you got to fight him for a little bit. You got to hit damage and he like starts to break through the ceiling and you continue up the tower and eventually you get on top of an elevator and just slam it down on, which is cool. But it's a long fight and it pretty brutal actually. It took me a couple of tries to do it. So I've played like, you know, so many Metroidvanias and particularly the Castlevania ones, and this is definitely one of the harder ones that I can recall right away, where I was like, man, maybe I should grind a bit so I can like feel like I'm not at death's door every time. Luckily, there's some stuff in this collection that makes it easier. You can do the rewind, which helps a lot if you're just like, well, I just want to get through this part. I can rewind this whole fight, which is great. You can make quick saves anywhere you are pretty much, so that also helps a lot. But if you're trying to just play it originally how it normally was, it's pretty difficult. But some of the stages you go through are, you know, typical stuff you'd expect. You know, there's like spooky locations, like there's a crypt you kind of go through, like a bunch of skeletons. There's desert area, some underwater areas you go through where you're like at the ocean, you go underground. That's good stuff. It has all the stuff you expect, the bells and whistles, you know, unlocking double jump, unlocking other stuff to progress through areas, like, you know, areas that were once inaccessible you can now go back to, all that kind of stuff. And the combat system, what this game has going for it is it's glyphs. So essentially you have these attacks you can absorb from enemies and stuff like that. Sometimes you kill them, they drop an item, you can absorb it, and it's like you can get like a sword attack, you can get a pole arm, or an axe throw, like the classic axe throw. But so you can do this on some enemies and bosses, actually, like some attacks they'll do, and you can absorb their attack. There's like a little indicator that you can do it, letting you know. So you can absorb like some magic attack from them and stuff like that. So you're starting to combine all these things together and make your loadout. And this also affects like your up B attack or up square attack, which if you know from Castlevania back in the day was like, hey, that's how you throw your knife or that's how you throw your holy water. And if you combine these, you can do certain combinations can have different special effects. Like one you can do is like a crazy huge giant scythe that like swings through and does a ton of damage. So that's really fun. So there is some build variety going on here, and you definitely want to switch things off quite frequently because some enemies are more vulnerable to certain attacks, like skeletons take more blunt damage and stuff like that. So something you're going to be paying attention to a lot, especially because, like I said, the game is pretty challenging. But eventually later on, spoilers, you go to Castlevania, and that area is much more interconnected, like huge giant piece right now. That's where I'm at right now. To get there, you had to do like the secret ending or the good ending, I guess, which is finding all the villagers. So it wasn't too bad. Some of them were kind of, I had to look up because they're behind like a hidden wall or something I just probably wouldn't have found. So it has that classic Metroidvania stuff where it's easy to miss some things. But so far, it's been fun. The music is also really good. I've really enjoyed the music so far. So shout out to whoever composed it. I've been really impressed with it. Of course, it doesn't sound as good as like a CD because it was on a DS, but it's still really good. And yeah, just quickly, I'm just saying I'm enjoying the game. I'm having a good time going through it. It is more Castlevania, more Metroidvania. Not a whole lot new surprising things there, but I'm enjoying it nonetheless. Always love killing some demons, sending them back to hell. And I can't wait to send Dracula back to hell. But yes, I will finish it. And I think it's probably like 12 hours maybe to beat or something like that, I imagine. So looking forward to playing more. This is from Welly Pones. Hey, Brad and the boys. Since Brad is playing Castlevania Order of Ecclesia, and with the somewhat recent re-release of Mega Man ZX games, I was wondering what DS games you want ported onto modern platforms since it's something that can now easily be done.
Mega Man Star Force comes to mind right away. So Battle Network, one of my favorite gaming series. It's basically the spiritual successor to it. They got lost in the sauce because that was at a point where like now we get no Mega Man games, but back in the early 2000s, I think the reason I am a big X fan is because we were getting Zero at the same time as Battle Network at the same time as like X7, but also X8. There was just a lot of Mega Man happening at once. And as it was tapering off on the DS, we got Star Force. There were 3 games there, which were improvements in a lot of ways and more serious takes on what Battle Network had established. But it was like instead of the camera being on the side like you would get in Battle Network, it was like behind the character. It was more 3D, a little more easier to track the action too. Like it was an improvement across the board for many, but it's kind of like unknown. And Capcom probably will do that since they're taking every Mega Man collection and bringing it to modern platforms. I think they're going to do Legends first personally, but
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too. Cause I have, do I have both of them? I know I have the first one on PS1 and I have it on my Vita as well, but at this point, I see Capcom doing all these collections. I'm like, well, I may as well just wait at this point. But I'm hoping they do that. There is also, thinking of my DS collection. Is it right behind me? It is. Hey, look at that. Attack of the Saiyans, great turn. That's Micah's favorite game of all time, I think. But yeah, turn-based Dragon Ball Z RPG. Yeah,
cool.
I'm pretty sure. I know it's a favorite of hers. I want to say it's her favorite game ever. I'll ask her right now. But yeah. Naruto had some great games there. They had like a turn-based game. Pokemon Conquest is a great one. I would love to see that get like a modern port just because it's literally about Nobunaga's ambition, but it's a tactical Pokemon game, a strategy Pokemon game. It's fucking awesome. Yeah, that's all I got. That's it. A lot of great DS games.
Yeah. Lockhart, do you have any DS games that you would like to see?
That's a huge blind spot for me. Like we've gone over before. I don't know anything about the DS. Nothing.
Damn. Okay.
So the only thing I know are the games Matty had me added for Retro Rebound. So I think the ones he just listed. But other than that, there's nothing. There's no touching point for me whatsoever with that machine.
Yeah. For me, I would like to see Tingle's Rosy Rupee Land, a Japanese Tingle game from Zelda. We did not get it here in the West.
Okay. Well, I thought he was joking. That's a name.
It's a real game. Yeah, it did not come out here in the West, probably because Tingle is not super popular, I guess, here in the West. But I always wanted to play it. I think there's actually 2 Tingle games, so I would like to see them come over just for completionist sake. I think the first, Bravely Default and Bravely Second Layer, I think it's called, or Second, whatever it's called.
What is a Tingle game?
Tingle is a character. He was a side character that was originally in Majora's Mask. He is like a 35-year-old man that pretends and dresses up to be a fairy, and he sells you maps.
Awesome.
Yeah. The game, he's meant to be weird, so everyone's in on the joke, Locke, so you're not alone. If you're not, he's been in other Zelda games as well, though, too.
No comment. Awesome.
Yeah, but I would like to see his game come out, or both his games, whatever, come out. Both the Bravely games, I think, would be cool to come out. Bravely Default and Bravely Second Layer, I think it's called, or something like that. But there's a ton of RPGs also in DS I'd like to see. Of course, the Mario Kart game, I never really played that one. I think it was 7, or maybe that was 3DS, but the one before I would like to see. But yeah, the DS itself just has an amazing library, so I would love to see more games come over. Of course, the Zelda games, even though I hate Phantom Hourglass, I would like to see it come over and give it another re-examination, and Spirit Tracks, so bring them on over. All right, Lockmort, The Outer Worlds, you've been playing.
Yes. There's 2 games that Maddie's been convincing me to replay over the past years, and one of them was Starfield, which I couldn't do anymore. But the other one was the other Starfield, the better Starfield.
You're welcome.
Which is called the Outer Worlds. The reason I wanted to play Starfield for so long is I haven't played a Bethesda game in a very long time, or a new Bethesda game, I should say. There's Fallout London, of course, but that's not really a Bethesda game, it's a mod. So I was really aching for a good Bethesda-type game. And I played The Outer Worlds before. I think it came out, when did this came out? 2019?
2018.
Yeah,
2018,
a while ago.
2018.
Or is
Thank you.
It was the same year as 76's Fallout First subscription. I'll double check. Sorry, go ahead.
So I got halfway through it back then, but I wasn't in the right headspace. There were some I was in some trouble back then with my dad and other stuff. So games back then are kind of a blur to me, sadly. But I remember playing it and getting a Borderlands vibe from it, not because of the gameplay, but because of the story. Like, it takes place like in outer space, of course, the Outer Worlds, but it's very funny. It's like with companies getting companies who are owners of planets and stuff. So I always had like this feeling in the back of my head that this was like a better version of Borderlands. I'm also not the biggest Obsidian fan, I have to admit. Like, I like older games.
What?
Yeah,
Wow, shocked.
I know. Yeah, everyone always annoys me with this, but I love Bethesda games, and I like Obsidian games, but I think their originals are always better. I like KOTOR 1 more than KOTOR 2. I like Fallout 3 better than New Vegas. There's plenty more. I like Neverwinter Nights 1 more than Neverwinter Nights 2. So I like Obsidian, but I always thought the originals were better. And Maddie, we haven't talked about this before because I was keeping it to this, but ever since we started replaying The Outer Worlds since a week and a half ago, I can't stop thinking about it.
There we go. That's my boy.
I'm completely in love with him. Amazing. It finally clicked for me. And the reason The Outer Worlds clicks for me this time is, I think, because I came out of Starfield. And what Starfield lacks for me, not for a lot of people, but for me, it lacks a heart and it lacks a soul. And The Outer Worlds has both in plenty. It has a huge heart and it has plenty of soul. It actually made me laugh a bunch of times, which I didn't expect from a game. But like at the start, you wake up, or you get woken up by a mad scientist. He sends you to a planet and you basically land on your contact there, which I completely forgot the last time. But I thought that was hilarious this time. I thought that was such a funny thing to do. The computer on board, Ava, needs to call you Captain Hawthorne, which is the person you landed on. Otherwise, she can't compute the commands. It's all silly, but it's so funny. It's so well done. The companions you meet, like Parvati, Vicar Max, Ali, Felix, Sam, they're all funny. They're all great. They're great personalities. They're good people to be around with. Like, this game makes me feel wholesome. Maybe...
Yeah. The DLC really expands those characters too, which is great.
That is awesome, because I can't wait to get to the DLC. I haven't completed it yet, the game. I want to say I'm midway through. I'm on the 3rd planet, and I think the DLC is coming up. Like, I should do the DLC before I get to the end, I think. So that's where I'm at right now.
You want to hit the DLC before the end of the game. Peril on Gorgon would come first, and then Murder on Iridon second.
Yes.
I think Peril on Gorgon builds Ellie's character a lot, if I remember correctly. I might be misremembering that, but I can look that up for you.
Amazing.
But yeah, each DLC builds out like a pocket of characters, and so it's kind of beneficial to have them with you, because you get a lot of bonus interactions and stuff. But yeah, the DLC is great. Peril on Gorgon, a lot of people are mixed on, but Murder on Eridanos is like, I can't wait for your opinion on that. You got to text me when you get there.
I remember you telling me for years that is one of your favorite DLCs. So that's why I really wanted to give it another try here. The quests are great. They're so, again, funny but wholesome. I don't know what was wrong with me the first time I played this game. Well, I do know what was wrong with me. I wasn't in the right headspace. But this game has so much heart. I don't know how else to explain it. Like, it makes me feel glad that I'm playing it, but it also makes me realize that this game is just great. And I should have given it another chance years ago. The one mistake I think I made the first time I played it, that was back in the day where I played every game on the hardest difficulty. And I started the Outer Worlds on Supernova difficulty back in 2019 or 2018 or whenever it came out. And Supernova difficulty means that you can't save unless you're on your ship. And it also auto saves if you leave a city and come back. Those are the only times it did that. So I remember playing the Outer Worlds back then and getting really frustrated because the combat wasn't all that great back then. And I would just die a lot, and then I would be back at the ship, and then after a while I just gave up because I wasn't in the right headspace. I'm playing it on normal now, so I can save wherever I want. And I'm having so much fun, not just by the combat alone, because the combat is basically Fallout combat. You have VATS, but it's called tactical time dilation or something here. I don't know the exact word. TTD?
Yeah, TTD, yeah.
TTD, yeah, that's it. Which is basically VATS again. Very fun. The skill trees are also fun to use. There's, of course, the typical stuff where you can carry more weight or do this, or your abilities last longer. But it's really, it works really well. It's basically New Vegas, but in a shorter, condensed, more in a more condensed area. There's also science weapons. So of course you have like melee weapons, you have ranged weapons, but there's also science weapons, which again are funny. You have the shrink ray, where you can shrink enemies with the mandibular rearranger, which freezes them. A mind control ray.
I forgot about the science weapons, dude. Oh my god, yeah.
It's so fun. It's so fun that they're in there, because the whole plot of the game, I'm not going to spoil anything because it's such a huge surprise to me that there's so much to it. But the whole premise of the game is that you wake up, or you get woken up on the ship called the Hope by a mad scientist who just sends you to Earth, or not to Earth, to like another planet to get something there so he can wake up the other scientists. That's the basic premise of the thing. Of course, it expands greatly, but I think that's such an original, fun thing to do. So the first time I played it, I thought it was more like Borderlands, but Borderlands has like silly humor or like slapstick humor, and sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. Maddie and I saw the movie; doesn't work in the movie. It also didn't. Flashbacks to that horrible thing.
The fact that theater was just empty outside of Laley and I will forever stick with me. I've never had that experience before. That was incredible.
So going into this, that was what I was preparing myself for. But the game isn't like Borderlands at all. Like I guess on a surface level, which is why I thought it was like that. On a surface level, with like the companies veering for control of the planets, it kind of resembles Borderlands. But the humor here is much more subtle. It's much deeper. It's much funnier. It's much more intelligent. And that's what I love the most about this game. It's an intelligent game. And that doesn't happen anymore, or not a lot anymore. Everything you do in this game, there's always a secret somewhere. If you turn like a corner in like the Edgewater, the first little city where you get to, there's secrets everywhere. There's like little canisters everywhere with stuff in it, and then you have to pick and choose. Do I up my lock picking so I can actually open them? Do I get my hacking skills better? So there's so many little choices and consequences. There's also bigger choices and consequences in the overall story that I wasn't expecting. I'm not going to spoil it here, but there's like in the first city that you get to, there's like a pretty big choice, I thought, where you get to pick between two groups, which is really cool.
There's like 4 ways you can go. Like there's one hidden option I still have yet to trigger. Where you can like lead an invasion basically, and it's awesome. Yeah.
Oh, you should tell me about that later.
It's
awesome.
Really cool. I've seen a video of it. I have yet to like cause I always try. I'm an idiot. I'm like, oh, I'll do this organically, but it's like a very specific way you kind of do it, and it's definitely inspired by like what Bethesda did with Fallout 3 and Tranquility Lane, where you can have like the Chinese army invade Tranquility Lane and shoot everyone. It's like very much that kind of idea here. But that alone like sold me on the game Edgewater. I was like, there's just so much there. Because one thing I want to throw in there, I don't know if you agree, is I love that it's dark humor. Like
yes,
the style humor works for me so well. Like one of the first side quests I do is about getting like a gold tooth out of someone's mouth who's like dead and buried because they like didn't do their job, and like the board wants to collect the debt that's owed, so you have to like literally pick from this dude's fucking grave his gold teeth. That it's so good. Or like you're looking for a replacement worker because he killed himself because he was overworked.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's so fucked up, dude. But they're just they're so lax about it. They're like, whatever, this is how it goes here. Like, this is how it is.
Yeah, but what I love the most is that they're lax about it, but they also acknowledge that it's fucked up.
Yeah.
Like that's where the heart and the soul of the game comes into place for me. For me, it was like what's her name, Parvati, which her dad recently died, which is like a personal touch point with myself. But the way her character evolves over the course of the game is something I haven't seen yet in any other game. It's done so well. It's done in such a fun, endearing way. I'm completely in love with this game. I can't believe I ignored it for so long. And what annoys me the most about myself is that it took me this long to give it a second chance. I should have done this years ago.
I should have urged you more on that than Starfield. I thought your Obsidian experience was just buried, so I just went with Starfield. But man, hearing this,
Matty, there's something else that's gonna make you happy because now that I'm gonna finish this game. Of course, I want to make a big video about it because I love it so much. That video probably end of the month. But after this, I definitely want to go back to KOTOR 2, which is one of Maddie's favorite games. I didn't like KOTOR 2 at the when I played it all those years ago because it was unfinished. It didn't have an ending. It was buggy as hell. I went back to it once, still didn't really like it. But now I think now that I'm in the
what's clicking with me is that you're saying writing is like, it seems like the writing is doing a lot for you, and that's KOTOR 2's biggest lift. That is like the I think that rivals any good writing in this industry. Like, I still think it might be the best written game I've played, just in the characterization department specifically. Maybe not like the finality of it, but the characterization. Oh my god, dude! Like, that game, I sometimes avoid if I'm like writing my game a lot, just because I get imposter syndrome when I read. I'm like, oh my, how do you fucking do that? Like, it's so good on that level. I really hope you do try it again, because I think if it's clicking
definitely
with you now, maybe you won't love it as much as me, but I think you'll like it a lot more. It sounds like.
Well, I love KOTOR 1. It's just KOTOR 2. Oh, I don't. You gotta understand. When I played it back in the day, KOTOR 2 was like the big thing for us. That was like, when did it come out? 2004? 2000? Yeah. So only a year later after KOTOR 1, right? Or 2 years later.
Yeah, it's a year later. Yep.
Yeah.
The Obsidian special.
Like
1 year after the original.
Yeah. I vividly remember getting to the end of KOTOR 2 after playing it for a couple of months. I remember getting to the end, seeing the credits, and literally saying to my girlfriend at the time, who was sitting next to me, "What the fuck was that?" Like, it just ends out of nowhere. I don't know if it still does that, but it did back then. So I think the restored content mod now, hopefully,
it helps the ending a little bit. Yeah, like, I won't spoil too much, but it's not. It gives it a little bit more of, like, you get more final scenes. I'll just say that final planet is a lot better.
Nice.
It's not perfect, but it's a lot better for sure.
Cool. So this has really been the year for me, which is what I was hoping for a very long time. This has been the year for me for second chances, and something that I should have done ages ago. Same with weeb games or anime games or whatever you want to call them. I'm finally opening myself up to trying new things and not being so stubborn and stupid and saying, no, that's dumb. No, I want to learn new things, and I want to see things I was wrong about. So The Outer Worlds is definitely one of them, and I can't wait for the sequel. I can't wait to finish it, first of all, and I also can't wait for the sequel. What a fantastic game.
Are you excited for Avowed more, playing The Outer Worlds, or is that still like, eh?
Avowed is different because Avowed comes from Pillars, and I have played Pillars 1 and 2, and Pillars 1 and 2 are so serious in tone that I can't see them deviating too much from that for Avowed. So this game has so much heart and soul, which is something that Pillars 1 and 2 lacked a little for me. But if Avowed can fix that, then I'm very excited for Avowed. I'm mostly excited for The Outer Worlds 2 now, of course. But Avowed, hopefully. I can only hope it's amazing. Yeah.
Okay.
Nice. I've played through Outer Worlds. I played when it came out, and I distinctly remember my playthrough got turned upside down. The main city, I forgot what it was called, but I got in a fight with someone there, and I ended up aggroing everybody in the whole city.
Oh.
And so I killed everybody. I killed like everyone in that game. Not intentionally. It just kind of unfolded that way. And I look back on that game kind of fondly because it's just so weird in how that happened to me, because I usually don't do that, but
it lets you, though, which is like what's so cool about it. It
Awesome.
really
What
does.
full
Like
psychopath.
I remember like one of their pre-launch interviews. They're like, "Well, we have to plan for someone who's just going to shoot everyone in the face if they don't like what they say." And so, like, what do you do when that happens? When like your quest givers just die each time? So
Yeah.
it's one thing Bethesda gets critiqued for. It's one thing I accidentally shot a quest giver in Starfield. They like did that thing where they fall to their knees and they
Oh,
just
yeah.
huff and puff and then get back up. And I'm like, I used to not care. I am starting to care about that though. Where I was like,
Yeah.
why not? Like, why aren't you pushing
Mhm.
this a little bit? Not to turn this into Bethesda again, but yeah.
Well, that's a very good point actually, because I think if you're like me and if you're disappointed with Starfield and you haven't played the Outer Worlds yet, play the Outer Worlds.
Hmm.
Because Maddie was completely right for turning me onto it. It is exactly why I love these types of games, because it does stuff that no other games do. Only Bethesda games and now Obsidian games, I guess, do this stuff.
Yeah, it's strange to kind of look at it and think that it's been since 2019. By the way, I double checked the release date. That's what it was, 2019. That we've gotten like what I think is like a good on foot roaming experience that's in that BGS style, and
Yeah.
that's so crazy to say because before that, what was it like? 76 wasn't very good, so Fallout 4, like you've really gotten two of those types of games. Cyberpunk has vehicles, but Cyberpunk has that at first person immersive quality where I kind of throw it in the same bucket. Maybe a little cheap of me, but yeah, it's like really tough to find them. So yeah, I appreciate the Outer Worlds more as the years go on as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah, great game. Hopefully we see the sequel kind of soon because they announced that a while ago. So
yeah,
hopefully see in a couple of years or sooner than later. I imagine after that we'll see more.
Yeah, they have Avowed first. I think Avowed is in. I'm looking forward to Avowed, but it's launching a week after Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. So for me,
I forgot that when I asked.
That's
you that.
rough.
That's a death stroke for me, but yeah. Hopefully it's awesome. Yeah.
I think they're gonna delay it. That's my guess. If their reason for delaying is we want you to have time to play these games, it's like, well, now you're there with like 5 other games, so keep the same energy, get the fuck out of there.
Yeah, they could wait a month or two. I think that'd be smart.
I think that'd be smart too.
All right, Maddie, Secret Agent Clank.
Yeah.
So I don't know anything about this game. I've never played this. So please enlighten me.
This is considered by many like the worst Ratchet and Clank game. I think PlayStation's doing a really great thing right now with their classic collection. You can go in there. There's tons of PS1, PSP, some PS2 games, and they're giving them trophy support. And I have not been a trophy hunter for a really long while. I wouldn't say I'm a trophy hunter again, but one thing Locke and I tried on Retro Rebound that went over well enough where we were like, let's explore this more, was I finished up getting the platinum for Astro's Playroom ahead of Astrobot. And I was like, let's just see how this video does. Like, it's worth a shot. It's different. It's fun. And I also think that genre of videos could use some competition because they're all the fucking same. So I was like, let's focus on the journey, not treat the game like a checklist, and kind of just talk about like what ones hung us up or what ones excited us, that sort of thing. And people really liked it. But the biggest suggestion we got was like, you guys should go do retro platinums. And I'm like, why didn't we think of that? That's such a good fucking idea. And so I, being just a weirdo, was like, I'm going to pick something that's like, I downloaded Legend of Dragoon. I downloaded Ape Escape. I downloaded Joanna Dark. I downloaded all these games. I see Secret Agent Clank. I'm like, this would be so interesting. Just like if like as the player, but also like making a video about this game would be so interesting. Like, can I platinum what's considered the worst Ratchet and Clank game? Spoiler, I did. Because it had such a low acquisition percentage. And it's not because it's difficult. It's because the game's not very good to many people. It's a game about Clank, of course. And he is it's pretty much like trying to make a James Bond movie with Clank in the driver's seat. And he's trying to save Ratchet, who's kind of brainwashed. And the game rotates between Clank in his secret agent missions, Ratchet in these prison missions where it's kind of like an arena like you'd find in Deadlocked or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then you have these awful missions as Quark that just, he shows up after Clank finished his job and pretty much like rewrites history on like, here's what I did to save the day, and just keeps like telling his own story, but they make them into playable missions that are just terrible. And so, yeah, I went on a deep dive for this game. I got every trophy, which means I think it was a really good platinum list because it was self-aware in that there are 65 skill points, which is more than any Ratchet and Clank game. you only had to get 25 for the platinum, which was a good call because the skill points in this game are stupid. They're really easy to break. They like don't like you can't check off 2 at a time, to my understanding. So that's what I loved about this journey was like I realized the platinum trophy really gets you, for a lack of better terms, intimate with a game where I know Secret Agent Clank better than most games this year because I just saw it for everything it was worth. And I was like, yeah, that's why this was so important to me. Like I always said, oh, platinum trophies I assign as like a love letter to me in games, but I haven't platinumed in so long. I have 42, but I haven't platinumed in so long outside of really easy to attain ones. I'm like, what is the love letter? And it's like, then I get something like this and I go, oh, like, right. It's that you just know the game so well after that point. Like, why do I remember Persona 5 Royal so well? It's like beyond just playing 5 and then 5 Royal, across a couple of years. It's I platinum both these games. Like I saw everything. I was deeply invested. So it was kind of a fun experiment to reconnect with the platinum hunt. It took me 12 hours. Nothing too crazy there. And I wanted to, it was getting a little close because I knew all these October games were coming up and I kind of needed to bang this out. This is going to be one of our holiday videos for Retro Rebound because we're starting to like pre-record all of that. By the way, Locke, I might need your Outer Worlds gameplay.
Oh, yeah, sure.
But with Secret Agent Clank, it was like, oh, this would be a fun one to like, I like to mix in videos I think will do well, of course, with like experiments and kind of just let them all go out over time. And we come back in January, we see how things went, we kind of re-strategize from there. And so this will be one of them. And I'm very excited about it because like I have a lot to say on it. I thought it was like a really fun journey and just learning the game, but also like the story's kind of bad. The gameplay, it's impressive how they got it working on the PSP. I like ran through this game basically almost 2.5, 3 times to get this platinum. But that's kind of the fun of Ratchet and Clank is like that momentum. And what's interesting is when you beat this game, like the extra weapons you get and stuff really don't exist. The weapon evolution isn't as good as it is in other Ratchet games. So it was like kind of restudying like what made me love this series in the first place. Cause I was also very whelmed by Rift Apart. Didn't think it was very good. The last Ratchet and Clank game I loved was 2016. That was an amazing. I played that like 4 times through. Got the platinum.
Oh, was that like the reboot one?
Yeah. Oh my God. Love that game so much. I thought that's might be one of my favorites. Deadlocked was always my favorite. I loved Going Commando as well. There's a lot of great games. I mean, it's really hard to make a bad Ratchet game. I don't think Secret Agent Clank is as bad as people say, but it's definitely like flawed and kind of boring at times. And the Quark level is just, that's the worst part of the game. It's very like disconnected. My words and voice will do it no service at all until you actually see it. But one of the Quark missions, like you're fighting the boss. It's like this big alien. He's retelling the story of like what obviously didn't happen. And there's a point you get to the boss where you knock it to half health and it fades to black and it fades in a cutscene of him just drifting to the right going, and then I dashed and used my laser. And then it fades back to black and fades into the gameplay. I'm like, why the fuck was that a cutscene? It was like 2 seconds long and it was so abrupt. It was so weird. This comes from High Impact Games, who I think they have like a lineage of just like not well performing PS titles.
They made Ratchet and Clank Size Matters, which got an 85
I think
for the PSP version, but the PS2 version got a 62. Then they did Secret Agent Clank, 61, 72 on PSP.
What they did that people don't like.
Jack and Daxter Lost Frontier.
Yeah, that's the one people don't like.
And Phineas and Ferb, then they kind of faded away. Their last game was in 2012, so they're not around.
Yeah, they've been gone for a while, but their last game, The Oddities, got canceled, it looks like.
Yep.
But yeah, that was unfortunately this is a company that was responsible for outside of Size Matters, which I remember liking, and I know a lot of people did like. This was a game that kind of represented what a lot of people say about High Impact is, because I saw Jack and Daxter Lost Frontier. I'm like, yeah, this is the one that everyone says is terrible. I've never played this game. But apparently it is not good at all. Jack 1 through 3 is, I actually only played very little Jack 1, but Jack 2 and 3 are excellent games. But yeah, Lost Frontier apparently should be avoided. So yeah, it was fun little PlayStation history deep dive, and I love what they're doing there with the classics. I'm going to keep getting platinums there. I wish Xbox did achievement support for their back compat games, because I would be all over that. But right now, PlayStation has the edge for me, and just like where I spend some of my additional gaming time because of that sort of stuff. Like as a retro gamer, really speaks to me. It's kind of what I always wanted. Didn't think it was possible. So it's really cool. I hope they make more challenging platinum lists, but right now it's like we're in a good pocket. It's really cool to see them like do Sly 1, bring that back and not do the same trophy list that was in the collection, but like a new, tougher trophy list. That was really cool. So yeah, loved it. Had a great time with it. And we'll definitely be going for more.
Nice. Matt, you talking about these old platinums. Man, I dream of the day Nintendo does something like that with their old games.
I know.
I would just, like, every Zelda game I would do. Just like everything.
Right,
bam, 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 bam.
They have like the in-game challenge system, but it's not the same as like collecting a thing or building a score or something like that, like you do across Xbox and PlayStation. It's that final crown jewel, which is the term I've always said Xbox can go ahead and use, right? You already have like the platinum achievements, or not the platinum achievement, the rare achievements that are like a gem, and they have like everything's like all these like stones. I'm like, just call the final achievement the crown jewel. They try to do it by making one of the achievements just like acquire all achievements. I'm like, no, this isn't the same. You give me 100 gamer score for getting all the other achievements. It's not the same. You need to do better here. So
yeah, a little something. All right, Secret Agent Clank I've never played. Hopefully get to one day. I've played pretty much every Ratchet game. I think there's a couple I haven't played. I don't think I played Deadlock. That's like the arena one, right?
I love Deadlock. A lot of people are very mid on it. I didn't know this until I watched like some videos online, but I think it's really charming, and I love the two robots that you can upgrade around. To me, it's like the quintessential upgrade Ratchet and Clank experience. Like you just play through it over and over, get tons of new weapons, tons of upgrades. The armor in the game, I think Ratchet looks so cool in the armor. I like that it's I remember it being a little more serious. Like I was in love with Deadlock growing up, and I still am. Like I have the HD collection downloaded on my PS3. Like I think it's such a good time.
Hell yeah. Nice. All right. Lockmort, Metaphor ReFantazio, the demo. You've played like an hour of it, just a little bit.
Yeah.
But tell us.
On purpose.
On purpose,
Yeah. So I think you were the one, Brad, that told me, or maybe it was Dustin, or maybe it was you, Maddie. One of you three told me that Metaphor was going to be like the JRPG that I should try. So I did. Once the demo came out, I heard people in the LSM Discord were very happy, very high on it. So I figured, okay, well, I should just try it. This is my year where I'm trying new stuff. I should try this one as well. I played Persona 3 Reload earlier this year. I still intend to go back to it because I enjoyed what I played there, which normally I typically don't with these types of games.
Finish Rebirth, dude. Just finish Rebirth.
Another one I have to get back to. But Rebirth is one... Now that I saw the Pro announcements, maybe at some point... maybe at some point I will get a Pro, or if it comes to PC,
it'll come to PC. It'll come.
Maybe that'll be the better option for me. Because my only problem with Rebirth was when I played it, like it can be better, which is what I kept thinking. But with this one, as soon as I started it up, the opening cutscene where you have the can I say what happens in the opening cutscene, or maybe?
Yeah, we're going to talk about the first hour of the game, the first demo. So if you don't want to know anything else about the game,
I'll only spoil. I will only spoil like the initial cutscene, like literally the first thing.
Yes,
literally the first 10 seconds of the game, or the first minute of the game.
Yes, that's fine.
So I'll do it in 3, 2, 1. When you open a game and the king is on his bed and he gets stabbed and there's actual blood, I was immediately like, oh, okay, this is going to be more serious, clearly. Like something cool is happening here. But what really got me interested here is when Final Fantasy 16 launched last year, everyone told me, you got to play this, it's Game of Thrones. And then I played it, and to me, it was nothing like Game of Thrones. It was like a game pretending to be Game of Thrones. When I played this, or when I saw the opening cutscene here, that's when I had that feeling. This is on the same level of Game of Thrones. Like you have all these interesting characters standing around the king's deathbed or murder bed, what you want to call it. They all have like highly interesting designs. But not only that, there's also like this Pope type figure with the guy with the mustache and like the weird gown. So there's like a lot of lore here. The character design is very interesting. There's this guy or woman, or I don't know what it was, like the black one with like the weird mask on. So there's like very interesting lore here. There's very interesting character design. They really went the extra mile to create a new world here, which is something I was very, very interested in. But that's when I got worried, because after that cutscene, the real game starts, and it starts um, with like the typical thing I don't like in these games, and it's like the old English Google Translate language. So they say like, "Thus, fantasy is forged into a new reality," blah blah blah, and I was like, "God damn it! Why are you doing this again?" Like, this stuff doesn't vibe with me. But once that was out of the way, that only took like a minute, and you get to the actual dialogue of the game, or like the first cutscene with the bandits and stuff, and you have Gallica talking normally to you. That's when I was like, oh, hell yeah, dude. This is awesome. This is like a whole new thing. I get to discover what this whole thing is about. And then we're playing as an Elba, I think it's the guy's called, right? The kid is called. They're not... There's like a mystery, like why isn't he liked, or why isn't that race kind of liked? And there's something happening with the prince. What is going on with the prince? And you have to infiltrate the military. That's your mission there, to find out what happened, or it somehow connects with the prince. And then you get another cutscene, and then you join the guard, and it keeps escalating in like a natural way. But what really got me is when you get to the city, and in that first cutscene there, you get to the city, and then somebody's getting hanged. And like people are like indifferent to it. And it's like, yes, dude, finally, this is like a grounded Game of Thrones game. Something I can really I can really dig in and get more out of the lore and get more out of the characters. And then the further I got in that first hour, because I only played an hour, the further I got into that hour, the more interested I got, which is something that every game should have, I think. And it's something that no anime game, or what do you call these games? Anime games? I don't know what.
I don't know. Just a JRPG, I guess. You can call it an anime game, I guess.
Normally, what JRPGs do, this is not. I know it's going to sound stupid or a joke. It's not. It's what they do with me. Like normally, when you start a JRPG, like the opening is cool, and then you get to Grasslands or something, and then you get the title Grasslands, and then there's like piano music, blink, blink, blong. And then you got the characters walking around, and I'm like, okay, well, screw this. I'm not interested anymore. But here, it actually follows a story. Like there's a story, there's a setup, there's a plan. You follow through. There's like the day cycle. That, well, I don't want to spoil it, but it
That's
holds
not a
bearing.
spoiler.
No, but it holds bearing to the story. I mean, like I thought it was just gonna be like, oh, Monday to whatever, but it holds bearing to the story. Like there's like a time limit for a certain thing, and it grabbed me so much there that I figured, well, I have to stop playing now because I want to play the real thing when it comes out on Friday. The only thing that's worrying me a little bit is that I didn't get to like it was still going up and it didn't plateau yet. So I'm guessing at some point the game says, okay, hold on, now we're going to teach you a million
Atlas
things.
games are like, in my opinion, really known for the 10-hour incline, and then they plateau after that. Like that's where the first 10 hours they hammer you with like the deepest themes of the game. They hammer you with like the anime cutscenes that hold your interest the most, like the biggest bosses. And it's not like it goes down, but it has to like now flatten it. And for like, because it's a JRPG that's like the length of Persona 5, it's going to flatten for like 10 hours and then go up once more on like your 25th hour. And then it's going to flatten again just to create some expectations. This one might just go straight up. Like I felt it when I did my preview. I didn't do the prologue demo because I'm just like waiting to play the game in full. Because I don't want to play through like, the beginning and then wait again. Just want to kind of ride it out straight up. But it might just be on like the incline the whole way through, because I did get the vibe that this is like a really strong story that they're building. Like right away, the themes. Like, what did you think of the themes of the game, Lock? Like how it was just immediately diving into like racism right away. I was like,
that's
kind of slapped you in the face with it. I was like, damn, okay.
Yes, it slaps you in the face, but in a good way. Like it's not like overly. It's not like these are the bad guys, these are the good guys, which I like. It's grounded. It's realistic. Like I said, when you get to the city, somebody gets hanged. Normally, it's not like the whole crowd is, oh no. There's that beggar kid next to you with like the pointy ears who just ignores it and asks you for money, and then the little fairy tells you like, no, don't give them any money, like because they keep begging. It's so interesting to me to see this like a grounded game. That's what I want from these types of RPGs, I guess. Like I want groundedness. Another thing that really hooked me was the world map. Once you see the world map and there's this voiceover that tells you what's kind of happening, the voice acting is really good too. I think the main character he's voiced in this. I think that's pretty unique to these games.
Yeah,
that's not
yeah.
Normally, I thought it was okay, but his little fairy friend is amazing. The other people you meet are great too. The music is something that also grabbed me, which is something I wasn't expecting. Because normally in JRPGs, except for Persona games, so it makes sense, I guess, the music in these JRPGs is always to me like ugh, the piano, pling plong. But this one, this is really cool. This is really, and again, I don't mean it as an insult. I mean it as a positive. Like this game does something different, I think. The enemy design is also really cool, really interesting, really unique. So I it's been a long time where I knew I know this game is coming on Friday and I can't wait. I wish it was Friday right now so I could jump in. That's how good I found the time I played it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's great to hear, Locke. I'm glad you're enjoying it so much. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on like so many of the things you're praising about. I think so I've played like 3 hours of the prologue demo just because it carries over to the full game. So I was like, yeah, why not? And I've been impressed with the story the entire way. I'm very interested in these characters now. I feel very attached to them. And it kind of like there's some shades of Persona there. Like there's an area that is essentially the Velvet Room. It's like the same exact thing. It's just like a different name. So you're like, yeah, of course, these kind of things.
Yeah.
And there's like things like the bond system, but it's not exactly the same. There's enough tweaks and of course the day cycle too, but there's enough stuff to differentiate itself from the Persona, but you can definitely tell it has like that Persona DNA in it. And I'm particularly really happy in the sense that the combat is very fast. When you do something, it goes by really quick, and it makes the pace of combat feel really good. So I've been impressed with the game. Maddie, you were impressed with it, I'm sure, when you played it as well.
Yes.
So we're all very excited to play it. Can't wait.
It was one of those things that you lay your hands on and you're like, this is going to be like an easy top game of the year. Like this is no doubt going to be one of the best reviewed games. And it is. I think it was at like a 94 on Open Critic last I looked. Like that's fucking crazy, dude. Yeah, it might be higher than Persona 5.
How long is it? Did they
it's like 80 hours.
Yeah, they said
probably
the length
80
of
hours.
Persona 5, so probably.
Well,
I always say
Persona
expect
5,
100.
Yeah, Persona 5 took me close to 100, I think.
Persona
it probably depends how much you do. Yeah.
There's
it depends on the person, yeah.
So 3 weeks until Dragon Age. So there's how many? Okay.
You could do it, but it's gonna be tight.
Impossible. Yeah,
it's gonna be tight. Yeah, don't burn yourself out.
It took me a month to beat Persona 5 Royal, and that was during the pandemic. But I mean, I was working the whole fucking pandemic, so my schedule really didn't change. But I guess if you want to use that as a measuring stick, I was putting some decent hours into that.
Well, yeah. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I told you this earlier, Brad. The stuff I played, or the hour I played, reminded me of the way I played, or I think this is going to be the way I played Dragon Age 11. Was that the one that came out in 2018?
Quest 11.
Dragon Quest 11. I played that for like 6 months every night for like an hour, and I loved my time with that game because I played it that way. And I think this might be this. I think I might do the same with this one. Just play it for like an hour or 2 hours every day.
Yeah. It'll take you a while, but as long as you're enjoying the journey, it doesn't matter. Yeah. You definitely don't want to burn yourself out with a game like this because it is going to be a long game.
I feel like that's what Atlas wants you to do. Like Persona 5, they had the take your time thing. Like those games are super long. Like they kind of just want you to just probably play the way you're playing it. Most of us are playing it in a way that they're prepared for, but like, you know, probably ideally they're like, hey man, this is like a 130-hour game. Like just chip through it. Like you don't got to beat it in like 2 weeks. Which I had friends do. I had friends like beat Persona 5 Royal in 2 weeks. I'm like, dude, what?
Wow.
That's some degeneracy right there on display.
Yeah. Goodness. Let's see. Derek Beek wrote in. This one is for Locke. Like you, I really don't like anime games and weeb trash. I've given some a try like Persona 5, which I fully completed, but the anime tropes were just so strong in the game that I never truly got invested in the game, as it sometimes felt like it was written by people who have never had physical contact with a woman. All right. For you, as someone who also has taste, how was the weebiness of the game been for you? I always try to give an open mind to games that I want to play and genres that I'm unfamiliar with, but anime games can sometimes make it so hard.
We discussed this on Retro Rewind when Maddie made me watch when we watched Attack on Titan. And the thing that annoys me the most about anime is the high-pitched yelling. Like it always takes me out. And I haven't experienced any high-pitched yelling here so far. So that to me signifies that they're trying to do something new maybe, or trying to do something something different here. The one thing I have to say, I already brought it up at the beginning, like one of the very first things that happens in the game is like the old English
Narration.
I call it Google Translate English, because that's basically what it is. It's like fake poetic nonsense is what it reads like to me. Is what a lot of these games do. Again, it's not meant as an insult. That's just how I feel they portray the language sometimes. It is here, but it goes away really quick, and I haven't seen it yet. After those first couple of minutes, so if they steer away from that and the rest of the game is more grounded in the dialogue, try it. I think you'll like it a lot. What was his name? Beak?
Yeah, Derek Beak.
Oh, Derek Beak. Yeah, I know Derek. Yeah, just try it, man. Try the demo. It's free.
Yeah, it's free. And it's a huge
long.
demo.
Yeah,
huge demo, and it carries over to the full game. So if you like it, you can continue from there.
Yeah,
this is really the one. People said this about Final Fantasy 16, but here it really applies. If you like Game of Thrones, I think you should try this for sure.
That's funny. It doesn't remind me of Game of Thrones at all, but I'm glad
Really?
people
Why not?
It. Yeah, I don't know, like because it's set in a fantasy setting where people are oppressed or something like that.
No, the king dies and the whole kingdom is like
the fighting over a throne. Well,
yeah,
I don't know, like 16. I don't know. There's like war nations fighting, all that kind of shit too.
Yeah, but 16 was not exactly grounded, right? Like you had like people turning into whatever.
I mean, metaphor is not grounded if that's what you're talking about. So get ready.
That's true. That's true. But you know what I mean? Like this is more. This is it's not grounded, but Game of Thrones also isn't grounded. Like there's dragons and stuff.
Right.
But I mean, I think this one will appeal more to fans of Game of Thrones than Final.
Sure.
Or at least to me. I shouldn't say to people.
Sure.
Like, to me.
Yeah. Sure. All right, boys, let's end the show with some questions from the audience. If you want to send a question to this show, I post a thread up every Saturday letting you guys know what we're going to talk about on there. So you can post your questions, your thoughts, your ideas, whatever you want on there. We do that for all of our other shows as well on various days. So if you have questions for any show, head on over to patreon.com/laststandmedia. All right, this is from Joe Cross. Greetings, Summon Squad. This question is for Brad and Maddie. I was wondering if the two of you could give a quick Final Fantasy XIV update. Brad, did you ever finish Dawn Trail MSQ? And if so, how did you like it in comparison to other 14 expansions? Also, Maddie, has the game continued to have a staying power for you? And if so, how far along are you? I started A Realm Reborn in July and made it through the end of Dawn Trail this past weekend. It is easily one of my favorite gaming and Final Fantasy experiences ever. As a first-time MMO player, I'm also shocked at how much I love running dungeons and raids, leveling up all classes, and even, God help me, crafting and gathering. Thanks for all the amazing content and keep on keeping on. That's a little Death Stranding thing for you there too as well, Maddie. That keep on keeping on. They say that a lot in that game.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
I talked to my editor, Josh, and he was selling me on Death Stranding, and what was the comparison that he made? He called it kind of like Dead Rising, and that perked my ears a little bit. I won't lie. I like Dead Rising's clunkiness and kind of like arcadey sense of progression, and he equated it to that. And I was like, all right, like everyone around me is trying to sell me on it. Like, I'll give it a shot, see how it goes. But that was definitely the best sales pitch I got on it so far. So just a little update on that with it in mind. A little Dead Rising energy for Death Stranding.
Just for me, so on 14, I finished Dawn Trail a while ago, and the story I'm kind of mixed on. There's parts of it I liked and parts I don't like. Like the first half of the expansion, I think is kind of not super interesting or whatever. I think the locations are gorgeous, but the story to me was kind of disappointing, and it's not fair because the last expansion was like the culmination of 10 years. So we're starting a new arc now, and it just takes time to build. So. But not everything worked for me in that sense. But on the other hand, the content itself, all the new dungeons and the raids I did were very fun. I was very satisfied with them. They've kind of upped the difficulty on a lot of them, so they're a little more less forgiving if you mess up. So I've been having a great time with that when I was playing. I'm not playing right now, but I'll be back when they add the Final Fantasy 11 raid because I love Final Fantasy 11. So I'm going to definitely be there day one checking that out. Maddie, you were playing A Realm Reborn. What happened?
I decided to just lay it down for a couple months because reviews were coming up, but it was not out of lack of interest. I was going pretty strong actually when I stopped, but that was right when I traveled in August 3 times. And then I had my wedding in September. a couple of reviews then, and then I knew October was going to be busy. So my plan in August, when I last played, is I'm going to pick this back up in November. But I was going really strong at the time, making some really good main story progress. Really enjoying leveling up my pugilist class.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, just like it was still a really good time. Like nothing has really evolved since then. I will say I'm already starting to see like the seeds being planted for like these characters in like I think they're called the Scions of Seventh Dawn or something.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they're going to be very relevant moving forward, and I'm very excited to see like how each of them develop, because you kind of like run through these pockets of quests with like different groups of them, and sometimes it's tough to pay close attention to them because some are just like not super interesting, but some are more interesting, and kind of you can see like they're developing characters, and so I'm curious as the game takes its story more seriously, like what they become and how attached to them I get. But yeah, I'm pumped for it. But November is the plan of when I want to go back, because not much is coming out then, and in December it kind of picks up a little bit with reviews, but I'll be playing it moving forward from that point on. I'm just really trying to be smart with the free trial and the amount of content I get to cover with the free trial, and like how I use it, because I know even if I'm an active subscriber, I'm not going to be on this game constantly. Even if I love the game, I'm not going to be on it constantly. So I'm just trying to really lean into the free thing Square Enix is giving me here, and just kind of gradually chipping through this thing. But I've been loving it. So yeah, really good time. And this is definitely the one where I'm going to finish. I'm going to finish the main story. It's just not this month though. It's not going to get touched this month.
Yeah. Like we were saying with Persona, take your time with 14. That's a long journey.
Right. Remember I said, we talked about it. I said, there's no short way through this. I'm just going to take my time, do what's right for the game. And I've been doing that. It's been great. Yeah. Like I have my complaints, if you will, but I think they're Reborn specific. I really have come around in the combat a little bit with how often I'm moving around my hotkeys and everything. I'm like, wow, okay, this is a lot more than I thought it would be, like different combos and stuff. I'm having a lot of fun with it. And that's with just like one job that's evolved once. Like I haven't tried anything else. So I can really see how this game's going to grow for me already. And I'm excited about that. So yeah, don't worry, Joe. We're still in here. I'm not going to move as quick as you though, Joe. That's fucking crazy, dude. Realm Reborn in July and Dawn Trail this past weekend. Friend, I admire you. That is awesome.
Yeah, Realm Reborn, Heaven's Ward, Stormblood, Shadowbringers, Endwalker, Dawn Trail. Wow. Yeah, that's a lot.
That's some gaming, man. I don't think you played anything else.
Glad you enjoyed it, man.
Yeah.
All right, this is from Nick. Howdy, gents. I need your help. I love all kinds of games from different genres, gameplay styles, settings, etc. However, I've never been able to get into turn-based combat games. I always prefer real-time action, and I need guidance on getting into them. I've been told by many of my friends to play games in the Persona series, and that it's a requirement to play Final Fantasy VI. What advice do you have to help me to get into them? Anything I should start with, or am I doomed to a life without an entire genre of gaming forever? Now, I took this question because Maddie's on this as well. Locke has a lot of history with turn-based games, especially older JRPGs, but you love more Western turn-based stuff like CRPGs.
I was just going to say, play Baldur's Gate 3. Problem solved.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, it sounds like he's looking at more traditional Japanese role-playing ones, but there's like so many flavors of turn-based out there.
Yeah, Baldur's Gate 3 is a great suggestion, I would say. If you're looking at Japanese style, I would say look for one with a turbo mode in it. So Octopath Traveler 2 is a very traditional turn-based game, and it kind of has the same bells and whistles that really began, I guess, if you will, with Final Fantasy, particularly 6, like job system and everything too. But that has a turbo mode. So if you have a problem like waiting through turns or enemy turns, or you just want things to go faster, like you can crank that shit up and just turn the battle speed up like ×4. And just like zoom through stuff, and it gives it like its own kind of unique grindy feel. I know Trails has that, but if you're a new turn-based fan, I'm not going to throw you at Trails. Atlas games are always a great starter area because the style and the flair of it really does a lot for people. So maybe look at Metaphor in the demo and get a good feel for that. Music can go a long way. Other turn-based games that come to mind here. Definitely not Pokemon. Way too simple, way too your turn, my turn. The thing with Persona that will work is I don't know if it's a Metaphor, but Persona has baton passing. And that really is a reinvention of turn-based combat, because like you can just keep your turn going. Like Persona gives you a ton of control. If it's not JRPGs, I'm also going to throw out there Wasteland. Wasteland 3
Yeah.
does a really good job where you take your turn and then your enemy's entire turn happens at once. So they shoot at you, move, everything like bang, 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 and they give you control right back. I think people with turn-based games, my studies have shown just by anecdotal evidence that people struggle when they don't have the control. Like when it's taken away from them for too long and they're watching just them getting beat up. No one has fun that way for the most part. Unless you've played turn-based for a while, you just know that's the experience. But a lot of people question that. So I would say look into games like that where Wasteland 3 just kind of zips back into your turn constantly. Last suggestion, I think Lost Odyssey is really cinematic in how it presents its turn-based combat. Like the camera angles changing a lot. There's some turn-based games that have action elements. Like this is a really random one, but South Park Fractured Butthole has like kind of little mini games you do per attack, and that goes a long way for some people. There's plenty of those. Like Paper Mario has it where you like tap A and you kind of like jump on the head of your enemy. So there's nuances there, like Brad said, where you kind of want to keep that in mind too. Like, do you want more action gimmicky turn-based? For me, I like the click a button, skill happens, because I don't like the turn-based games really where you have to like, throw in a little gimmick like Paper Mario does. It just doesn't vibe with me as much, even if it can be a little fun. So yeah, there's just a bunch of options out there. I hope one of those lands with you. I'd say if you're already looking at Persona, then just go look at Metaphor. It's free. It's a great demo. It's very long, and you can get a feel for the Atlas turn-based combat and see where you go from there. I think there's a turn-based game for everyone. You just gotta find it. Once you find one, just breaks the whole genre open, and then you just understand it. It's just getting to that point of understanding. It takes one game. So hopefully you find
Lockmore. What about you, dude?
Well, I already said Baldur's Gate 3, but it's I think it's also about mindset. Like you gotta view those games as puzzles more than action games. Like you have to think about your moves. I think see this chess maybe instead of like an action game. Like in chess, you have to think about every move before you do it. I think turn-based games, not all of them, but a lot of them, including the JRPGs, are a lot like that. Like you have to think about your move and your next move and how you're gonna defeat the enemy before you actually do it, which is a different mindset than an action game where you actually get to do it yourself.
It's all about planning out your strategy or whatever and watching it unfold.
Strategy, there you said it. Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah.
Nick, so you said Final Fantasy VI. So Maddie brought up a great point with speeding up battles. There is the Final Fantasy VI Pixel Remaster, where you can actually speed up battles. You can change difficulty. I think you can get like more XP, you can get more gills, stuff like that, which is money. So if you're looking for like a more old school looking kind of game, I don't know, Nick, if you're into more retro looking games or if you're more modern stuff. For modern stuff, I think Maddie was really hit the nail on the head with Metaphor. One, because the demo is so generous on what they give you. You can get a real feel of it. And also, it's like a brand new game coming out, so you can be part of all that excitement if you want to. So check that out. Final Fantasy VI, if you're the Pixel Remaster, if you want to see like Super Nintendo era looking graphics and all that kind of stuff, I think is really good. Locke, I'm curious about suggesting this one because you did play this, so I'm curious what you think about it. Would be Dragon Quest XI, because that is on everything, and I think it has some things like auto battle to help alleviate some of the grind, maybe.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great one. I would also maybe suggest Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Sure, it's not turn-based, but it has like elements to it. Yeah,
it can ease them into it maybe.
It can maybe ease. Yeah, the whole like selecting moves and all the ATB gauge could kind of maybe ease you into that system. Yeah, that's possible.
I think Dragon Age 11 too, or was it 11? I always forget. It's 11,
Dragon Quest 11.
Yeah. That I love that game, and that was from someone who didn't enjoy those games at the time, or JRPGs, I should say. So that's a great one. I think that's a great suggestion.
Yeah,
Brad.
I like Dragon Quest 11 a lot. The only thing is, a lot of these games we're suggesting to you are very long, so keep that in mind. Now, one I'll say is that's really simple and not very long is Super Mario RPG. You could check out. They just had the Switch version of that. That's probably an easier one to get into. The Switch version is actually really nice, so maybe check that out if you're interested. It's much shorter than many other games, so there's a lot to choose from, Nick. You know what, Nick? Why don't you let me know in the next episode what you kind of land on, or if you need to elaborate further about what you're looking for out of a game, or a certain time period maybe you're into? Because I would say, like, hey, maybe Final Fantasy VII, the original, because you can speed up combat in that version now too, and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot to choose from, Nick. But let us know what you think of these choices, and we'll try to go from there.
Also,
we want to get you.
Just last
We're gonna
thing
get you
is,
in here.
I'll throw out Live Alive just because every character plays kind of differently. It's a remake from Square Enix using kind of what the Octopath technology is. Give that a look too. It's like, each character and kind of time period you go into is a different approach in combat and story. And so maybe you need the gimmick to switch you up. Because like I said, it's a buy-in thing. Once you get through the door, I think you're going to play like turn-based forever. But you just got to get that game. For me, actually, it was Final Fantasy 13, which is very much like an active combat game. Like it's turn-based, like you're switching paradigms, but the combat's kind of playing out while you're doing that. So you're strategizing from a different angle. So you could also look at that. That's not traditional turn-based at all. It's more an evolution of what Final Fantasy 12 did, but that broke open the gate for me. From there, I was like, I love turn-based. Because again, I got it. Like I got different facets of it, like the ones that slow it down, the ones that are your turn, my turn, and all the nuance that comes with it. Those are my last.
Man, really, Final Fantasy 13 was the one to do it for you out of all the games.
Yeah, I'm unapologetically. I'm a fan of 13-2. 13-2 is fucking.
Oh, 13-2. I thought you said 13.
Yeah, sorry.
Just normal 13.
I meant 13 as a series, but 13-2 was what broke it open for me.
Okay, 13-2 is much better than 13.
13 I was not super crazy about, even to this day, but I still love parts of it because I remember like playing that when I rented it from Blockbuster and just being so wowed by the visuals. But
oh my god, it looked so good. That game was a showpiece for sure.
Oh yeah, even now if you play it on back compat,
it still looks good.
Looks really good. But 13-2 is magnificent. That was the one that broke it open for me. That was like 2010 or 11, I want to say, something like that.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And that's where I got it. I was like, yeah, okay, I get this genre now, because I had played turn-based before, but Pokemon, but like you're in your head, you're like, trade, like I like Pokemon, not I like turn-based. So
yeah. All right, final questions from Sam Starjack. Hey, Brad and friends. Brad, do you ever look back on your time at GT/EZA and now LSM and think of the potential influence you and your colleagues have had in the gaming industry? As an example, I think EZA had a positive influence on making Yakuza games more popular in the West, and your continued insistence on From Software's excellence certainly made me stick through the early hours of pain in Bloodborne to find the beauty underneath the surface. What other creators have had a direct impact or a direct effect on particular games' popularity? Thanks. Now, Matty, you're probably this guy for a lot of people with Bethesda.
I didn't really think of that. That's funny. I was like I thought your answer, the example they gave for you was fitting, but I'm like one dude, so I don't know. I don't really give myself credit for anything in particular, but I don't know. I feel like Fallout 4 was, for example, already really popular, and I was just kind of like a voice of the people. But
but I think that's enough to get people in.
Maybe, maybe. If I am, then that's cool. Yeah, I don't like to over assume that I've like, because people think it's like an ego trip, especially. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I never look at it that way. I just always like to deliver my opinion on things, and if people resonate, they resonate, and that's really good. If they don't, certainly they make that hurt as well. But yeah. I hope I have a positive influence. I guess that's the thing that stands out to me for you, Brad, is like they talk about your positive influence. And that's all I kind of try to aim to do is like, hey, can I make you think about games in more intelligent ways? Can I open your mind to like other scenarios that may be happening in this situation that you have a very narrow view of? Or can I expose you to this game that otherwise you wouldn't have tried out? I don't know. If I'm doing that, then I'd like to say it's a positive influence. And so I try to do that across both my channels. But if I am that guy for people, cool. If I'm not, I get it. I'm one dude.
All it takes is one dude sometimes. Like I certainly wasn't the only person praising From Software for years. There's many, 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 many people out there who have been doing it. But maybe it's just something, the way you say something, even if you're saying the same thing, just the way you say it may click with them more.
Passion, right?
You've done that to me many times, Matty, and to other people I know as well.
Like with Starfield.
No, that's the one bad example. That's literally the one bad example. But like you've shown me like the Outer Worlds, for example. You've shown me a lot of games that I wrote off stupidly, and you convinced me to give it a second chance, or convinced me to try them out, and now I love them. So you're doing that for a lot of people, I think.
Good. I hope so. I think it's. Yeah. I think for all of us, right? It's a hobby we love. And I think at its core, there's issues with the industry and there are problems that, of course, we want to talk about. But it is a fun thing to do. It is a luxury hobby at the end of the day. Like it's a choice. It's not a necessity to live. We choose to spend our time this way. We're very lucky to do it this way and even make a living off of it at all and make any money whatsoever. So I just think it should always be on like, how do we make it better? What can we enjoy together? And that's why shows like this are awesome. You just get to talk about things we're playing.
Yes.
Unless it's me with Sharded Space, then you know, otherwise you get to talk about the things you love and you're having fun with.
Yeah, Locke, for instance, you've definitely opened my eyes a little more on some Western games, RPGs I probably wouldn't have really thought about. Like Kingdom Come Deliverance is one great example of that. I definitely associate you with that game now.
Oh, that's very kind of you. I find it hard sometimes to talk about because I know the joke is that I hate weebery or anime and stuff, and so sometimes maybe it sounds disingenuous. But I think like Maddie said, a show like this is very important to me as well because it teaches me that I should be more open to different genres and different kind of games. Because without you two, for instance, I would have never even tried Metaphor. Or games like that, and now I do. So that's really cool, I think. So if more people could do that, that's amazing. So I think both of you are doing a tremendous job doing that. You're helping a lot of people, which is awesome.
So are you with your documentary style videos now?
Yeah.
Well, but that's what I mean. Those are more like jokey. No, I shouldn't say that.
Jokey, come on. Give yourself some credit.
Those are about older games. Like, and also, I'm very new to this. Like, you two have been doing this for like a decade, so people revere you, look up to you, rightfully so, because you're like Maddie, like you say, you're the you're the Fallout guy or the Bethesda guy. Brad, I remember you from the Final Fantasy VII remake review.
Yeah, the reaction.
You're that guy, of course. So people look up to that, and I think that's awesome because you two are such nice guys too. You're both my friends, of course, but you breathe and you live video games. And there's a lot of grifters out there and a lot of people who don't mean it well, but you two mean it well, and you know what you're talking about, which is very important to me. Like you both know what you're talking about.
Oh, that's nice, Locke.
And that resonates with people, I think. So that's why I think that's a very good question. And I think he's right that both of you do that very well. And you should continue doing that.
I hope more people continue to see that with a lot of creators. Like I think LSM has a lot of people genuinely in on game. Brad, of course, a great example of that. Like I hope more people take notice of that because there just are a lot of fucking bad faith people who like just see gaming as a money-making opportunity. And what's unfortunate is there was a time, like whenever I did like YouTube consulting, like when people would sign up to Patreon and like I give them advice, I'd be like, you can't do this without consistency. And like, you can't do this if you're just going into it for the money, not because the money's bad, but because if you're just thinking that right away, like I want to make money on this, you're just going to fail so quickly because you're going to give up when you see like you make no money. And that's going to be the unfortunate reality. But what's happening now is people have been able to grift their way to a money-making position extremely quickly if they hold radical extremist opinions and represent a demographic. And they build an audience that way, and then they're making a ton of money that way. And it's YouTube ad revenue, so they're probably not making much. Take it from me, who makes a living off of it. Like the ad revenue is shit right now. It's really about like sponsor deals. That's how you get some money. But like when it comes to fucking YouTube ad revenue, it's not much anymore, comparatively speaking to how it was a few years ago. But yeah, I hope people take note of like what guys like Brad are doing in the space, and just like that there are a lot of people who care about the conversation in games. And especially at Last Stand is a good representation of it as a whole, that we just, increasing that, it's, I think what did Colin have in the tagline for Last Stand? I think it's like, long form gaming content for thinking people. Like I think, that's really what we're all about. And so I hope that it just continues to spread a little bit and people continue to recognize like that there's good conversation and people who do mean well out there, and that not everyone should be under the skeptic's eye because there's a lot of bad apples in the bunch.
Right. Totally. Awesome. That's it for this episode of Summon Sign. Maddie, Lockmore, thank you guys for joining me. I love talking to both of you. Yeah. So I'm very happy to have you here.
Same.
Before we get out of here, boys, any final thoughts or anything you want to say, or should we just get the hell out of here?
I'm personally good. I feel I got all my bars off. This is a great episode.
Yes. Man. Thank you. Lockmore, anything, or are you good?
You're both awesome. That's it. It wasn't a joke. It was real. But yeah, I get it. No, thank you for having me on, Brad. I always have so much fun on your show. This show is very important, I think, because it doesn't teach people anything, but it shows that games should and could be fun. And having people talk about the games that they love is so unique, which is weird in shows like this. So it's awesome. I love this show.
Yeah, I like to celebrate games. Sometimes you got to call games out because they're not good or something like that. It happens, but we're all here because we love games. So
Yes, sir.
Keep on doing it. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching or listening, whatever you're doing. Thank you, guys. We'll see you next episode. Take care, everybody, and goodbye. Summon Sign is a product of Last Stand Media and Colin's Last Stand LLC and is proudly recorded in the USA. The show is written and hosted by me, Brad Ellis. The show is produced by Dustin Furman. All of Last Stand's theme music is by Ramon Narvaez. Summon Sign, along with the rest of Last Stand's media shows, are fan-funded on Patreon at patreon.com/laststandmedia. The following names are at the producer level on Patreon, our highest tier, and we are grateful for your kind contribution and generosity to our independent endeavor. Thank you.